Whenever you're ready, Mayor.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's call the budget workshop meeting
Bless you.
to order, please.
Thank you very much. Common mask.
Roll call.
Here,
Yay.
Casanello,
Present.
Pater, here. Thurston.
Here.
Schneider,
I'm allergic to budgets. I'm here.
Shannon, Morris.
Here.
Okay, let's dive right on into it. Go into the budget discussion.
For this, we want to go ahead and start at the expenditure. So if you guys have a printout, this will be page 3 of 6. And this way we can go down, and if you guys have any questions, please let us know, and we can discuss it further. But I want to make sure we go through what you guys think is necessary, needed, any changes, clarifications, and we can go through. Because this will be probably where you guys change or your focuses, priorities. This is where it may come up. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and start here, and we can go down.
So just to clarify, this, what we have here and what you have on the screen are the same. There have been no adjustments to it.
That is correct. The only thing that has been adjusted, well, actually updated, is the actuals. As you can see. Apologize.
Okay.
That is correct. The only thing that has been adjusted is actually updated has been the numbers of the actuals. These actuals are running from 4/9 versus, I believe, the last ones were from March.
Right, March 2nd. Okay.
Each subtopic. Explain.
Say that again?
I don't think the intent is not to go line by line. It's to sort of subgroup.
If you guys want to go line by line, we can do that as well, but that's where,
Section by section.
Okay.
or, yeah, however.
I have no interest in going over your postage budget. On the town council, obviously, we've not used the education, so I think that's the idea, just to keep that as a placeholder until we get past COVID and we
Well,
begin to.
So that was like the annual conference, VML annual conference.
Okay.
That something that they held it virtually, so that may be something that you guys are interested in next year.
Okay. But from prior years, 2,500 has generally been the budget.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make my annual pitch to reduce the expenditure on us, salaries and wages. I would reduce it down to 21,000. Based on the historic numbers.
Councilman Weir, I'm sorry, how much?
21,000 from 26.
Can you say that's typically what we're doing?
I don't see us going over 21.
He's lined up.
Is there any background to why it was at that amount? Anybody know?
I don't know. I think it's typically always been budgeted at a higher amount than we would ever reach, just presuming we would have more meetings than we do. As I figure it, I think our max would be 21.
So the figure, Roberto, for that 26,000, that's based on 3 meetings per month, the mayor's stipend, anything else in there?
So I believe the 26 actually was amended earlier in the First Amendment. I think it was a little bit above that prior. But yes, it was based on 3 meetings a month, guaranteed pay for 3 meetings. Anything over that would be unpaid.
Right. So if you look at the history, I mean, what was that, 20, is that, the second column is 2019 fiscal year? And that somewhat approached 21,000, but the rest of it seems to be way below. So we do have some room, I would agree, to make some reduction in that number.
I mean, this is the first month we've had 3 meetings, right?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think so.
I'd like to just remind you that the reason why that 14,000 also is because, remember, last council chose to, from March up to their end, to forego payment.
Fair
They-
point.
So that's another reason why that number seems really low.
Okay, so if we did a calculation of the number of meetings they did, what would that number be?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
I threw last year's out as an anomaly, and I just looked at the previous 2. And this year, we are trending towards 19.
And that's as of now or for the full year?
For the full year. Let me do that one more time. 4125 divided by 3 times 4. Yeah, 18,833.
so let me ask staff their opinion on making the reduction. Does it make sense? Do you think it's too much, too little? What are your thoughts on it?
So, as we have it budgeted now, which is, like Roberto said, that you guys would have the ability to have 3 meetings a month, and any more than that would cost more. If we reduce it, then we just run the risk of either having to amend it later on, or trying to push off the meeting. So instead of having 3 when we need it, push it off later. So, I mean, I think we could get it done, but it could cause problems in the future if we change it.
I just don't see us meeting 3 times a month.
And I'd just like to also mention too that, for example, continuation meeting, it's still 1 meeting.
Yep.
So you wouldn't get paid for that, for the last, example, last week's meeting. You're still getting paid for that first Monday meeting, because it is a continuation meeting. Just one thing to keep in mind.
Any
Any
thoughts on it?
objection to knocking it down to 21?
I don't have any objection.
That's 5,000 you can
No,
park
it's
somewhere.
already motion by in my head.
Or we're gonna have to, I think we're gonna have to make some expenditure or revenues cuts too.
All right, okay.
But piling it away now,
So what is that, 111,005?
correct.
Yes.
I can give you this, I'm keeping it electronically.
Oh, okay, good. And I don't have to write it down.
Maybe that's another question. Roberto, can you remind me again why we've done away with town elections?
That is because we won't have elections in the next budget.
Right.
It'll be the following year. That
Okay.
will have to be recalculated in there. In last year's election was a little different due to COVID, different protocols that had to be done to get those elections done. So it did cost a lot more to the town.
Right.
But it was reimbursed through COVID money as well. I'd like to inform you guys of that during the audit.
Okay, thank you.
Good job. So presumably, one of the arguments for changing the local elections to November was that it would save money. What do we think about that? I mean, I know that's next year's budget, not the one we're talking about, but is there any thoughts on, are we still going to have to pay some fee to the county for that?
I assume that we will. More than likely, it will be for the ballots that need to be printed specifically for our residents. However, I don't know how exactly the breakdown is going to be. That's something that I think the county's gonna end up having to get with the other towns and kind of giving us an overview of what's gonna be expected. So as of right now, I can't really speak to it, but my assumption is that we would at least have to pay for the ballots for the town.
All right, so I guess we'll have that conversation this time next year.
Probably
Yeah.
likely, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, thank you.
And to tell you the truth, I think it should be a down ballot item, so I don't even think we should have to pay for ballots.
Oh,
I think that's an election committee discussion. Okay, we'll move on. Everyone good with this section? We'll move on to the next.
We're in town administration next.
Town administration.
There are a couple questions real quick. Overall salaries, Roberto, does this include merit increase pay, or what is your policy for?
Correct. This does include a 3% COLA for all staff minus the town manager. This also includes the new employee for DMV Select. 1/3 of their salary will come out from the administrative,
Okay, thank you. There's a
Wages.
note. I just see that note right now, thanks.
and then the remaining, as you can see down the lines, we split it, just so you have a clean look on that budget.
Next one, part-time,
Before
Emily, you
you-
have,
Before you go past that, I just want to make a point about the salary and wages regular. I think we need to bump that up because depending on the outcome of our review of the town manager, I'm thinking we're probably going to have to bump that up somewhat.
Give me a number.
Don't know.
Circle back to that at the end.
Yeah, let's circle back, see where we are.
Yeah, our next meeting will be in May, right?
Yes.
So we should be able to circle back. Make note of that. What line item is that?
001.
1211-001. Okay.
Health insurance, Roberto, that much of a hit this year?
Yeah, that's big.
006?
Yes, the reason for that is because for the potential new employee for DMV will be full-time, so I like to play base case scenario for a full family plan. That could change if the employee we hire doesn't come on a full family plan. That is more of a budget calculation, just to be safe, be conservative, just put it out there. It's easier to reduce than to have to look for the money later on.
Okay.
Part-time, Emily, or, sorry, Roberto, the part-time staff that supports the town, I guess the 2 college guys during the summer, and then the employee you have now, that encompasses all of that in the part-time line item?
Yes. There's some other things that we'll probably be looking at too, to include maybe a person to help with some of the public relations, so Facebook, the website, the farmer's market, and events. So that may be a position that we're looking at bringing in a part-time capacity as well,
Where does Emily the younger fit into this?
part-time.
Okay.
It's at
Sorry, you're
25.
Emily the older.
Have you done any staffing to populace analysis and compared it to any of the towns?
Yes, I have. We are very understaffed compared to other localities. If you take the population per 100 residents, most places are between 0.5 and actually 1 employee per 100. In the town of Haymarket, we are at 0.24. So that's just something that we could look at in the future. But I think with 25,000 on part-time, that we would be able to accomplish quite a bit, and then we can reevaluate that in the future.
You sure 25 will be enough?
Yes, sir. As you can see, last year it was 24,384, and then with COVID, it's a significant drop-off. However, we'll have more staff come in, especially with spring and summer and maintenance work and different things like that. So we'll be closer to 20 by the end of the year, and we think the additional 5,000 will help with, like I said, the farmer's market, the advertising, Facebook, social media, updating the website, just things that the four of us are not able to get to as of right now.
Yeah,
But you're not seeing a true reflection because you guys have been carrying the weight.
yeah.
And I think what the mayor is getting at is taking that into consideration and not having your full-time staff here like on an event like yesterday, where your staff is needed elsewhere and their hours should be used elsewhere, that this number should be bumped up, and then you find more part-time to cover these events like yesterday.
You read my mind.
I'm just trying to translate for you, sir.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I think we can make do with 25, but I also want to be conservative. But if you guys think that it should be more, closer to 35 or something like that, we would be able to do that.
So expound a bit on the research that you just shared with the mayor. So Haymarket is at 0.24.
Correct.
And
So
your
what-
closest?
Berryville,
Okay.
they are at 0.48 per 100 population.
So that means if you have 4 staff members here, Berryville has 8.
Yeah, it has
8.
exactly.
True?
For the same population, yes.
Okay. And for the same population, if we have 4 staff members here, that means the average is 4 times 4. You have 16 is the average.
So
True.
like I said, yes, the town of Haymarket is understaffed when it comes to employees, especially for all the stuff that we want to try and accomplish with, being business friendly and having all the business roundtables and doing the advertising and being on social media, updating the website, being able to send all the newsletters to the residents, on top of all the zoning and planning that has to be done for, getting permits to do decks and build, just all the things together. It's getting to the point where we're not going to be able to do everything. So that's where council is going to need to either decide, let's focus on increasing part-time so we can get a couple positions that may be able to wear a couple different hats and get these things accomplished, or kind of reduce the task list, if you will.
Not to say, we've been very blessed with the volunteers. The group of volunteers that we've had over the years, I mean, Haymarket has been tremendously blessed from the scouts to the ladies, that group of ladies that take care of the flowers. There are just so many groups of them that have stepped in and have helped us over the years.
In that case, do you want to take the 5,000 we just saved and plug it in there?
That's what I was going to recommend.
30?
Yeah.
The thing is, the staff is going to be responsible with it, so if it's not used, it's saved.
If I could piggyback on that one. So, Tracy Lynn, that the advertising, I guess later on, if one of these employees was meant to be sort of our social media expert, so should we proportionally increase the advertising, especially with Haymarket Day coming up?
Well, so when we talk about advertising is if we have a person dedicated to post once or twice a week on social media, or share posts or take different pictures, videos, photos, and put it out there on social media, it's free. So that's the other thing, is where some of the advertisement that we budgeted in like the community development, that's more of like the video like we had done with paid advertising. So if we have a PR person, it's just going to be more eyes will be on the town of Haymarket that won't necessarily, other than the salary for that staff member, you wouldn't have to pay for additional advertising, if you get what I'm.
I hear what you're saying, thank you. But in terms of the advertising for Haymarket Day, where would that show up in the budget?
So everything we expense out for Haymarket Day is paid for by Haymarket Day vendor fees and sponsorships.
It's
So
entirely zero, okay.
Line item further down
Yeah.
the list that covers all that.
all the magazine ads, all of that gets covered in actual Haymarket Day monies.
Okay. Third question on this one, business roundtable, is that a separate budget item? too?
Currently, that falls under the events money. Right now, the only expense we've had this fiscal year for Business Roundtable is there was one morning for our first one that we had coffee and light breakfast items available. When we get back to meeting in person, I think that's something we'd like to continue, and then possibly get some more information out to our businesses in that avenue. So maybe it's time to make a new line item for it, or
And we do have the community development, so that's one where we were talking about with the advertising, with the kind of like a strategic plan with, helping move the whole business, all the businesses as a group together, like kind of one strategic plan. That's probably where we could put money in as well, specifically for business roundtable meetings.
Yeah, did you want business roundtable to fall under economic development or community development?
I would say economic development. Because if the businesses are successful, the town will continue to be successful.
Two more. Roberto, it looks like books, dues, and subscriptions is starting to finally trend down. Is that just a short-term thing, or have we cut some subscriptions and stuff?
Yes, we have found a few items we were able to reduce. There are some events, though, that are not happening, that we have not, classes that we have not.
Okay, so just leave it at 16?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one in this section for me is the capital outlay, which we never spend.
Is that because, well, computers, we just got that paid with COVID money?
I mean, given what we've just bought with the COVID money and the other stuff,
So this was something that I was going to anticipate doing the security system, so we'd be able to have like a closed circuit TV for specifically the DMV, and then maybe a couple other cameras for the exterior doors. That's at least where I was thinking, and we have gotten a quote for, I believe it was just under 10,000 for like 8 cameras. So if we were to reduce that, then it shouldn't cost as much.
You good with that?
I mean, well, just wondering if you could wrap it in with if there's a cost savings to be found and wrapping it into the PD, since, I don't know if everybody's aware, we have to redo the security for the PD. These door locks and such are not,
Commercial grade.
well, they're not commercial grade, and quite a few of them are non-functional, apparently. Is there a cost savings? I mean, can we do that this year out of what, rather than, I mean, if we're going to do it, I'd rather get it done this year with the surplus that we're going to run.
So we can reach out to the same contractor and see if they could give us a quote for, it'd probably need to be 3 or 4 cameras based on the entry and exit points, and then 2 strategic locations for the cameras. So we can reach out to them.
Well, if we're going to use this year's funds to do the PD, I'd rather use this year's funds and get it done with sooner rather than later, not put it off until next year, and then just go ahead and drop this down to, I'll cut it in half, make it 5, because we should have everything done.
So not only the cameras, but you have to have a
The
computer
server, the
storage, right?
service, yeah.
Okay. And I guess we already resolved our server. We know where all our stuff lives now. We have the right.
Yes.
We have finished with the servers and the computers and all that stuff done, so, I mean, I'd rather get we've got the money to finish it this year because of the COVID savings. So fund it out of this year's funds, that way we don't have to deal with it next year. I mean, why put it off if we've got the funding to do it? And then just cut this down to 5 based on the historic stuff.
Yeah.
I have no issues.
I think that's good thinking, Bob.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing I have on here, which I don't think is going to be anything of impact this year, but I see we do break out cigarette tax administration. Do we need to put a TOT administration line in here?
So that's something I will need to speak with Martin, because I do not know all the specifics about when that'll be coming to commercial use. So I'll discuss that with him on my Wednesday call to see what we're looking at.
Okay, I mean, we're only projecting 1,000, so I mean, administration's going to be minimal, but I know that should probably be a line item in here if we're going to keep the cigarette tax administration in here, right?
So last year, we removed the cigarette administration because we weren't really administrating it. We are part of the cigarette tax board that handles that for us. So they actually, when they give us a monthly deposit, they actually take their administrative fees off of it. So that's another reason why we took it out, because we are getting the net deposit of the net cost of revenue of what they have collected for us. I believe, I'm not sure why it was kept before. For example, just like the Prince William County Clerk, they also take their fee off of it. We never take that into account because we're not administering it. We just receive the deposit. So we actually removed that last year because we're not administrating the tax, the cigarette tax. We're just receiving the fees right now. The reason why that number exists there is because for some reason they were still taking into account what was being reduced from the deposit, which you could do, but the deposit was already, at a net amount, so there was no reason to keep that there.
So we had kind of like a third-party administrator
We do.
scenario, right?
We're part of the board that administrates
Okay.
the cigarette tax.
Because I know the title will be all new to us, so I don't know if we're going third-party or not, so that's a question that I thought we'd raise for discussion.
I'll look into that and get that answer, how they anticipate it being administered.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for this section. Anybody else?
We'll circle back at the end. I want to talk some more about the salary.
Okay.
Legal.
Legal.
Yes. The next section is legal. One thing that this budget takes into account, we started this year, was tracking the pass-throughs. That's a reason why we kind of kept it the same, because many of the things when it comes to developers and any uses that are initiated by new town businesses, if it's a pass-through, they actually will incur that charge. It won't be the town. So the remaining amount is fully stuff that the town needs to do for legal services. I believe we may need to look into this and probably bump it up, considering with the projects that we foresee coming. But then again, many of those costs may possibly be passed through as well. So the number we kept there, it was just a placeholder. If council feels like this should be bumped up, please let us know.
Bob?
I think if we've learned anything from the last couple of months, the price of not knowing what we don't know has gotten costly. I don't anticipate that we're going to have a repeat of what has driven the legal bill up this year. However, my guess is that Vanderpool has some kind of escalator built into their
Yes.
contract.
Yes, I have it in front of me, if you want to talk about it.
So here I go, I save us 5, I give it back. Just to be safe, I'd bump it up to 75.
Can we discuss the bill first, before we throw numbers?
You want to talk about the bill? Here it is.
No, I just
no.
gave it.
Oh,
I mean, you said there's an increase coming.
Yeah,
Let's talk about that first,
Yeah,
before we throw
okay.
numbers.
oh, I thought you meant the most,
No.
sorry.
So back in 2018, and I'm sure you guys know this, but I just want to put it out there. Let's see, the new hourly rate went up to $2.40 an hour with a 3% escalator each subsequent July 1st.
So 3%.
So doing my calculation for 2021, it'll be $262.25 an hour, starting on July 1st.
And 70 times 1.03 is 72,100.
Where are we right now?
We're at 66. You mean currently in our budget?
Currently in our,
This year,
Our actuals?
on actuals.
our actual is 66,554.78, but that's skewed.
Very much skewed.
Where you see the 66?
It's up, it's right
On the
on the
screen.
board.
Oh,
Right here. I'm sorry, that's as of what date?
Do you want my printed copy? I've got an extra
one was
printed.
up to date, but it's not.
No. That's why I stated earlier in the meeting that
Yeah.
this is
I
the
wasn't listening to you. I
actual.
was counting your arms, and then I realized I wasn't paying attention, and I stopped counting them. So I stopped counting them, and now I'm paying attention to you. I
You'll see a
apologize.
huge jump in the last month.
Well, God, we cleared that up. Okay, so no, this is the most up-to-date numbers, which is gonna differ from what you have there.
Did you accept my apology?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
The prosecution rate is going up as well.
So
That's a 5% a year.
Is it?
is that with the PD?
So if you look at the memo, let's see, 2,000 per month, which is really a bargain when you start to look at all of the prosecutions. We're making out very, very well on that number. And so it was at 2,000 on July 1st, 2019. It should be 2,100, but I'm not seeing that, Roberto. It seems like they kept it at 2,000, possibly. It really should be around 2,205 starting July 1st, $2,205 if you took the 5% escalator.
And that's the pass-through fee?
No, that's the
Is
prosecution.
that 2205 a month?
Yeah. At least that's my calculation. And
So that
we have-
means we need to bump it when we get down to that line item.
No, I think it's already good, but when we get there, we can discuss that.
It might be. Let me see what we've got it calculated at.
24.
24.
Yeah. I tend to disagree on the logics that Bob is basing the increase on. I tend to want to go the other direction,
I'd love to go there too.
because I feel like over the last few years, we have really targeted looking keenly at the attorney fees. And it is my belief that if it stays at 70 or raised to 75, it's like what you strive for. I think if we don't cut it back to 65, we won't realize the curtailing actions that need to happen. And now we have better policies and procedures in place, where now Mr. Kuhn has weekly meetings. He is not picking up the phone ever so often to call Mr. Grimm. He has it on a schedule. He has his list, and he bangs out everything on his list in that time period that he is with Mr. Grimm. So I feel like we have better policies and procedures in place now, and because of that, we should reduce it from 70.
If we were having this discussion last month, I'd absolutely agree with you, and I'd cut it back. But if you look at what's happened in 1 month,
But we know what has happened in the last month.
yeah, I'm just saying, what's to prevent that from happening again? I can live with anything you want to do with it. At the very least, I would leave it where it's at. I mean, I think we can come in well under that number, but I'm worried about the unknown again.
Robert, do you have any actuals for the last 4 years?
Yes.
Yes,
That's it right there?
Yes.
48, 59, 72, 69, and right now it's at 66?
And that's 66 again. That's
I'm
it.
sorry.
And
There's
once-
a pass-through. So it's-
At this time last month, it was 38.
Yep.
And once again, this number also had to do a lot with COVID stuff. We had to do, many advices through the council when it came through COVID and what to do and what not to do, legalities and stuff in that too.
And I'll tell you, there's going to be a big unknown with the PARS stuff too. So I have a feeling we're going to be doing a lot more with legal with the PARS stuff too. But the PARS can pay for that, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, the what?
Cheers.
The CARES Act number 2.
Oh, the American Rescue Plan?
ARP, sorry, not
Yeah,
PARS,
that-
ARP.
exactly. That may be something, and that may be something where if council would like, we could probably try and, similar to the pass-through, maybe do something specific to CARES or ARP, just so we can pull it out so everybody knows where it's coming from.
Okay.
I have a response to that?
Go ahead.
So with what we're seeing right now, so the attorney reviews the bonds, correct? Okay. So I'm just saying, we got the fairgrounds coming in under the assumption that it does move through. If that develops, there's gonna be legal fees associated with that, or legal review. The hotel, once it's up and running, releasing the bonds and doing some other things. We've got the Van Meter project underway, got the yoga studio, what's that?
Yeah, keep
Typically
going,
covered as a
Martha.
pass-through,
That's a good,
correct?
that's a good point.
I was-
Keep going.
That's all passed through.
That's
So a
all
lot of-
passed
Yeah,
through,
a lot
okay.
of those reviews are gonna be all passed through.
Okay.
And, I mean, that's not to say there may be certain questions that arise during those situations that, you know, I would speak to during my weekly meeting or something like that. So you are correct. With all those things, there may be some legal fees associated with it, but the majority of that is going to be passed through.
Okay.
You've got the envelope right there, or the folder. Why don't you just read to everybody what the typical charges are on the legal bill every month?
Well, that one's not typical.
That's what I was going to say. This one isn't
Well,
typical,
no.
but what I can do is I can.
No, but the line items are typical, just the numbers are atypical.
So I can read the previous month, which was general matters was 2217, meetings was 900, prosecutions was 2,000, planning was 1,701, and then there was the BZA appeal, which was 965.
Right.
So that bill for last month was $7,784. And yes, some of the planning was passed through, but.
I guess, my point was keeping it at 70 was we have some of these additional costs that may come in. I agree with you though, that, was it use it or lose it, right? Every year, if you have those items in, there's a pressure to sort of justify it carrying over, but I do believe with the amount of activity that we have coming over the next,
I can live with it at 70.
so.
You just said it as if you agreed with me to keep it at 70. I was saying 65, but it's fine.
I agree pushing,
live with it at
I agree
65.
depressing it, but I think just everything that's going on the next year, prudent would be to keep it at 70.
I'd like for it to be at 65, I just don't know if it's realistic.
Say again? You don't think it's realistic?
No, I just don't know if it is. I'm tired of getting surprised.
The thing is, when it's at 65 and you realize your numbers are creeping close to it, it calls for more accountability on our part. If it's set at 70 or 80,000, and you know your common dialect is going to be, oh well, we're not near the budget as yet. But if it's at 65 and you know you're edging close to it, it calls for better accountability on our part. When we realize, oh, we're edging close to it, hey, let's cut back on whatever it is. And that's kind of how I look at it. If you keep it high, then you have more freedom to say, hey, it's in the budget, it was reviewed, it was passed, it's fine, we're not near the 100% using it up. But if it's at 65, then you catch yourself earlier.
As of last month, we were trending towards around 51.
I understand, but it's last
No, I mean,
month was
I could
unique.
live with dropping it to 65.
I just need the support for the just how the visual, how it looks.
I can live with it 65.
Let's drop it.
I can live with 65. I mean,
Man, I should have gone for 60.
What about 67.5?
Thank you.
67.5, split the baby.
It is.
75 here, we got a 65.
Sold.
it certainly sends a message, for sure.
Good point. So we'll be around 65? 75.
So let me ask staff,
So we drop it.
right. So staff, what do you think about that?
Mr. Kuhn?
Thoughts?
I-
This is where we have the discussion, throw it out there.
I think it's doable. I think it's doable for the simple fact that this is the first year we're actually tracking pass-throughs. As you stated, in your budget you have in front of you, we were really below within our legal fees. That also is assisted due to the fact that we are being able to pass through a lot of the expenses to the developers. I think it's doable. It's a goal, and we're here to hopefully hit that goal. Of course, if something were to arise as prior 2 months or whatnot, I'm sure we'll tackle it then.
Exactly. That's same terminology. I mean, we'll go for it just like we were tracking this year. Like Bob said, we were trending to be finishing around 50-something, give or take. And, situations arose that we needed to take care of that needed legal expertise. So, but like I said, that's what between Roberto and I, if, we need to pivot throughout the year, we can do so and we can address it in different line items if that need be, but I understand the sentiment and respect it. So I think it'll be okay.
All right, good. So we go into this with eyes wide open, and if we go below 65, Chris can take credit for it.
Like I said,
Was it a one vote thing? I thought it was all of us agreeing. This has been my pet peeve for since 2014. Just remember what rate it was? Wasn't it at 110 or 120 in
It was
Higher
2014?
than that.
It was up around 140 that one.
Yes, in
One year was-
2014 it was way above 100,000.
I have that number somewhere. I want to say it was close to 140, wasn't it?
It was close to 140.
And I also think that we're already taking measures to be more accountable in what's going on and more transparent, so this is just going to add to that.
Okay, sold.
Okay, so next section, independent auditor, I'm sure that's an easy one to,
Actually, I'll just say what I said to everybody else. Common practice is to switch your auditor every 5 years to get a fresh eyes. I understand changing from this one would be expensive, but it's best practices. It's a hill I'm not gonna die on, just because
we had this auditor.
just because our audit's not that complicated.
how long have we been with our auditor?
I've worked with Michael since the fiscal year 2017. I'm not sure prior to that. I believe they were here, but I believe they must have done a bid out there to have another audit company out here. But Michael has pretty much taken over as of 2018. Prior to Michael, there was one of the other directors, David, who had retired. So Michael and I started pretty much working together around the same year of FY 2018 till now. This price does include, I definitely want to inform you guys, this price does include the yearly presentation as well. That is something that prior years wasn't being done, but he was more than happy to include it this year, free of charge. But going forward, he knows that it's important to this council, so he included it for the next year's CAFR report.
Okay, I'm good with starting the clock on 2017. That gives us another year. And we can think about changing.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Comments? Everyone happy with that?
Next.
Okay. Public safety?
This section here is mainly police department. One thing I want to put out there and be very clear, I know there's been a lot of discussions out there about the police department's funds, and the one thing I want to say that this budget that Chris and I have worked on is for a fully staffed 6 officers with a COLA increase. I believe this will be the first COLA increase since I've been here that has been worked into a budget. There has always been an intent to maintain the 6 officers, and this budget shows it. In fact, full-time, 6 full-time officers plus the part-time. And this budget included also some additional work that our town manager has wanted to include when it's selective enforcement, to give the ability to the officers to get additional overtime.
I want to make a statement here, just so that everybody is clear. If you look at the bottom line in the proposed budget for next year versus this year for the total of the PD, you'll notice that it goes down $118,000 and some change. The principal reason for that reduction is the loss of the Laney detail, which accounts for $116,000, and then the loss of our eligibility for DMV and VDOT grants, which adds another roughly 16 grand on top of it. So at the end of the day, we've actually increased the budget. We just don't have the additional extra overtime opportunities. Laney because they're done, and the DMV grant and other stuff because we're debarred, and we're not going to be seeing that, probably not seeing that for 3 years.
Okay. Chris, I would like you to talk to, I guess, our concept for rebuilding. Are we going to be able to take care of all the consulting requirements this year, or will we need to add money to handle consulting next year?
I think we're good for this year, sir. The consultant amount that we have, especially from what we're saving right now from salaries, we're able to cover the consulting.
But what type of expense do you think we would need to see for next year?
So one of the things that we're reviewing right now is we're auditing the evidence room and we're auditing all equipment. I mean, every equipment that we have. There are some equipment that's there that's outdated. As a matter of fact, I think if the finance committee had not stepped in, we would not be able to operate the vehicles and the computers beyond the end of this month because they were that old. So the equipment that is there has been neglected over the years and they were not being replaced. And it's incremental. It's not like they needed to be replaced at any one time. It's just an incremental where you look at the older vehicle, just like what we've done in 2015. I think that was the premise why they pushed for the vehicles, because the amount of money we were spending on the 4 mismatched vehicles that we had, it was just running our budget dry.
Yep.
So in the same way with the vehicles, I think what we're doing now is we're properly recording every equipment that's there, just to make sure that we have the equipment on hand. It is why I spoke to Chris Kuhn about even firearms. There's usually when you're leaving a department, it is usually a good thing to purchase the firearm that you use in your service and stuff. And I felt like if we were to go that route, then we would deplete our police department, and we would end up paying twice the amount for the firearm that we would have to replace. So we're holding on to all the equipment that we have and the things that we can reuse. Right now we are researching. We don't want to jump the gun too quickly in purchasing uniforms. Uniforms are needed. Bulletproof vests are needed. We have belts. We have different equipment for the officer. But we're waiting as far as the different sizes are concerned.
Okay.
Just to purchase
I
them.
mean, there's a boatload of things. Like you said, there's uniforms, there's the mobile data computer network services. Will that be rolling into next year? Are we phasing in, 2 or 3 at a time? Because we have no money budgeted next year for it.
As I understand it, we've got essentially 2.5 operational units, and we're ordering or have ordered or already received 2 more.
Ordered, yes, sir.
Roberto, is the order for that, the $10,000 for that, factored into line 056 at 31,592?
No.
So,
That's the car.
oh, that's the car. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
So, yeah, you have 051 is for the computer mobile
That's the
data.
county fee that my visit to the county executive's office has eliminated.
Right, so, Mayor, if I can,
Mhm.
the goal is going to be to hire the officers and outfit them this fiscal year. And if we're not able to do that, what would end up happening is we're gonna have carryover surplus, specifically from the police department, which would then roll over to continue to the hiring and the outfitting, if it were to go that long, but we don't think that that is going to be the case at all.
Okay.
So that's why.
Is that why that
And
number's
that's also on the
20,000?
equipment?
That was my question.
I just got a lot of questions at once.
Is that why the number for 045 is 20 grand?
That is actually the number from the last amendment that we did this year. I believe something Chief Lance agreed to for this current year. So we just moved it forward. The PD budget was actually created 2 months ago, was given to the chief. He gave it back to me with the changes he wanted to see.
Well, if we're going to outfit everybody out of this budget, this current budget, do we need to leave it at 20 if we weren't trending that way?
We need to leave it where, well, our hope is to outfit on our department back to full strength of the 2021 budget.
But you need the 20 just in case?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I said, MDAX, I don't know what our phasing in of MDAX are. I don't see anything in here for bicycle repairs.
The
and I know
MDAX will be taken care of in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, and I know
It's a
the
priority
bicycle
that
repairs.
we can't let it go.
It's already been ordered, and in relation to the bikes, we are looking at it's between 3,000 and 3,200 for 2 new ones, which depending on the uniforms and police supplies, that's one where we could look at. And there's a couple other places that we may be able to look at in police department to make that work. So that's what I'm saying is there are several things that need to be accomplished, but that's going to need to be accomplished this fiscal year, not
Okay.
next fiscal year. So, and like I said, if for whatever reason, but like I said, MDAX are already ordered, so they are en route. The bicycles, it looks like we're going to have to wait till December anyway. So if we do have carryover surplus, that's where Roberto and I will come to you guys and let you know this is, you know, what we want to do and how we want to do it. But we also could purchase them this fiscal year, and it just, we may not receive them until next year. So there's different things, but a lot of the PD, it's focused on here and now this fiscal year. And then,
Right, but I just want to raise it up for
I appreciate that.
conversation,
Thank
because these are things that will end up rolling over that will end up biting
Understood.
us.
Well, I just want everybody to be aware that Chris and Joe and I have been working very closely with Jake recently. And the MDAX had to be taken care of immediately. We had units rolling out of here without an MDAC in it. And
there's a lot of other fine-tuned things, sir, that it's going to be, it's not something that we're going to make public, but just to let you know, there are equipment that's there that's outdated. There's equipment that's there that we purchase way too much of, and they expire before you get to 3/4 of them. There's equipment that's there that just doesn't, it's not beneficial in having them. So what we're doing is looking at everything on the equipment list and
not
just
relying on you
phasing
to-
them in instead of going out, instead of buying 20 pepper spray that expires next month. Then we'll buy 2 this month and 2 next month and 2 the other month. So it's just looking at it's all the items, every equipment that the PD needs. This is not cutting anything. So as far as the budget and how much we're purchasing, if they need 20 for the year, they will still get 20 for the year. We're just being.
Right, and I don't want to micromanage you, so that's why I'm a little concerned. I don't know how you're phasing this, but I want to make sure that I capture anything that's rolling into next year here. I don't see anything accounting for any rollover into this cycle that we're talking about.
Understood, sir.
And so I didn't know if we needed to have some type of miscellaneous line item to give us like 20 extra thousand to, you know, handle these things that, oh, God, we forgot this in our phasing.
I think we'll be good.
Just raising it up for conversation.
A lot
Marshall?
of this coming out of vacancy savings, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in some other places. There was money in some of the equipment line items to fund it, in the existing line item.
I have a couple of questions, if we can go back.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. It's probably for Roberto and Chris. So just want to go back to the salary and wages. So what we're saying in this budget, we're fully funding 6 FTEs plus the chief? The next chief?
Included.
Including, so it's 6 FTEs total.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we've advertised for 2 more officers, and we're advertising for a new chief?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And right now, what is the complement of FTEs in the PD right now, today?
2.
2 FTEs.
2.5 to 2 3/4, because we do have.
FTE.
Yeah, 1.
2.5.
Exactly, because we do have one part-timer that has picked up a significant amount of shifts as well.
Okay, so he's almost probably close to an FTE.
Yeah, he is very close.
Yeah, okay. All right. That's good, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. The other thing is the capital outlay for the vehicles. This is the last year for those 5 vehicles?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct. This budget for next fiscal year will be the last year. It will complete, we would then own the vehicles.
Okay, so we're going to have to assess vehicle conditions, right, to make a determination of when the replacement cycle will be, I would think. That might be something we want to put on the CIP or no? And tell me why we wouldn't.
The vehicle mileage on those 5 vehicles is, they are vastly disparate. They're all the same model year, and there's what, 50,000 miles difference between
yes,
one
sir.
vehicle to another?
Wow.
Yes. Which is why the one that is being used now more than any other, which is the sergeant's vehicle, is the lowest mile, and I had him keep that one because it's the lowest mile vehicle.
Okay. All right.
We need to determine what we want to do with the spare cruiser, the black one.
The black one, right. Okay, so, but this is the last year for this capital outlay unless we have to get into a replacement cycle. So the following year, we'll have to think about that. Next year's CIP or whatever, we'll have to have that conversation.
Do you
but
want
not
me to
this year.
throw that into, we can add that to the CIP, because I left
Yeah.
a blank line item in the PD.
I would.
So I can leave that in there for the 2022, 2023. And what do you want to budget for it?
I don't know yet. Let's, I mean, you can
Question
put
mark.
question mark placeholder, but certainly we're not going to think about buying them all at once. We'll probably do a stepped approach, I would hope.
The wisest thing to do.
Yeah.
It is never wise to go all out and get new vehicles all at the same time.
Okay, all right.
But we do need to look at, and this is something that Chris and I can talk more about in just disposing the car that sits there, that because it's sitting there, then it's costing us.
Right.
Because every time you take it or for a drive, something happens to it, and you're going to have to pay again, or you just have it sit there not working, and it's not being used.
The black one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or do we leave that to the new chief, because he may want it, I don't know.
That's not going to be something reliable that you want to give someone to drive on a regular
That's fine with
basis.
me, I don't know what condition it's in.
Not unless you live close by.
Walking distance in case it breaks down.
Okay, no, I just wanted to point that out about the vehicle, so.
Thank you.
This will be the last year.
Well, do we want to go ahead and, do we need to start talking about surplusing it here in the near future?
For the vehicles?
Yeah.
When you really think about it, how many times, not last year, but how many times in 2019 did you activate every police officer at the same time that required all of them to be out on the street using their vehicles?
If I recall, the gross mileage on that vehicle over the last year, based on the Sheets reports, it's almost nothing, right?
Which one are we speaking of?
The black one.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the exact mileage on that one.
And it's become sort of a hanger queen. I mean, it's, you know,
And that's
we can
some-
talk about it later, but
Exactly, I was going to say, that's something that we're getting into the weeds right now
Yeah,
about
okay,
it, but
understand.
because there's different ways as you can go about it, whether it's put it up for auction like on a Gov Deals site, something similar to that, or potentially trading it into a dealership that may be willing to do like a bulk trade-in with the majority of the vehicles. So like I said, that's something that I think we'll need to kind of have a strategic plan on how we want to proceed and how we're going to be able to get the most money for those vehicles to benefit the town the best. So I don't think that's something we'll be able to accomplish
it gives
tonight.
us-
We'll
it
have
gives
to,
us- It gives us plenty of time to consider it for next year as a CIP option, and then we'll be able to figure out how much we'll be able to recoup from whatever vehicles we dispose of, and then get the new ones at least partially funded with that.
At least identified, yep.
Okay, Marshawn?
A couple items, similar rollover to advertising, this is a zeroed out item, advertising is that, and I should have thought with the town administration. This is 30. Now, is this for the recruitment, like if we place on Indeed, or those sorts of things, or what is it
So,
reason?
on the police department side, as you may know, in the past 3 years, they did their own events. So that's what they were technically used for advertising the events or any events that they had.
Okay.
But since then, I believe Emily's been assisting a lot more, so we are kind of taking it on the admin side.
Okay.
And that makes sense. I mean, why would we?
Convention and 38, convention education training with the new officers or new officers coming online. Do we find that sufficient if we got to do any additional training or?
So they will be certified officers, so they will already be accredited through DCJS. So the onboarding, it's more of an FTO with Jake Davis is our field training officer. So there's not a lot of training unless there's specific things that you guys are interested in sending them to.
Yeah, we don't send officers to be trained in any area. They're coming here already trained.
I'm
No.
sorry, I meant more of like yearly renewals, those sorts of things
All
on
of
an
that,
annual
all
basis.
of that happens in-house
Okay.
from our 2 training officers.
Okay, thank you. 42 and 43, when I had asked about the take-home policy, was it these 2 items that we're talking about that anticipates either the hybrid or the previous take-home policy?
Yes.
Okay.
So, the 16,000 that's there under 42 for vehicle fuel and the 11,000 for vehicle maintenance is that topic that I wish to take back up to council to seek approval for a hybrid plan. I just did not want to push it last meeting because I felt it was going to be rushed, and I wanted to get the various options ironed out first, just to have something in place in order to, but it is something that will be discussed as we do recruiting. That is, it's a possibility.
Should cover the outside, though, on a hybrid plan. 16 should cover it if gas prices don't double.
Yep.
What about the maintenance side? Seeing that the vehicles are getting older,
I think we're going to probably have to bump that up, just,
so we should look at that. or
well,
think about that.
Come at 11,000.
Vehicles are getting older, but they're still,
Yeah.
the mileage is still not bad for
I th-
4-year-old vehicles.
I think one of the other things that we need, something else, and correct me if I'm wrong, that has come to light, is the manner in which we do our purchasing of some maintenance items, tires, for example, and there's some cost savings that are available that we haven't taken advantage of.
Yes, sir.
I can make an argument to bump it up. I can also make an argument that there's probably enough cost savings to leave it where it's at. 6 one, half dozen the other.
Again, I believe it is in the same view as my views for the attorney. I think this is a good start for a new chief to come in and to see what he has in place and for him to work towards it. And should he not be able to accomplish or meet this task or meet how much it is that is afforded to him, then he can always come to council. This is not something that it's so set in stone that it cannot be changed. But I think if you raise it too much and you give too wide of a perimeter, it eliminates a manager really stepping out and doing what's best for the department instead of just spending because the money is there.
I agree with that.
And I agree. I mean, I think everybody on this council would agree that if the vehicles are not functioning, that's going to be the main priority, is to get them functioning back on the road, even if we have to pass this budget, if we have to pass the line item. So I agree. I think that's something that,
But think about the liability on our part. Should a chief come before us and ask for $5,000 more for tires, and we are like, no, you're not getting it. Think about, no, it's none of us. I don't think there's any one of us that would ever stand in the way of something like that. But setting a good limit, a reasonable limit that's here for fuel and for vehicle maintenance, I think this is good, a good start for a manager.
Thank you. Community events. 46, this was the rodeos, this was all the array of things that they were doing before.
Correct, and as you can see, it was removed because with COVID restrictions, they just didn't go forward with any of the events.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. Last year, before COVID shut everything down, Chief and I had talked about The town would help him out with some of the events in the sense of we would help with some of the planning and getting things done, advertising, trying to do some more joint events so that we had kind of a whole town viewpoint on things. So we didn't actually get to do many of those. COVID shut a lot of stuff down. So when you guys look at our events budget on this side, we have not had a full year that we help do police events. So if they still want to do National Night Out in August, bike rodeos, breast cancer walk, if they still want to do those things, I do not know how much those cost, and so that would be a little bit of a learning curve for us,
So I was gonna-
just to throw that out there.
that
I know
was
they
my
had
point
a,
then. Yeah, should we budget for
They-
that then? Okay.
right, they had a lot of volunteers that helped, they had a lot of wonderful people that donated. I'm sure that Jake could, get some of those contacts again. I just don't know when it came down to advertising, bathrooms, things like that. I just don't know how much they spent out.
Bob, you have a comment?
I have a philosophical problem with having that line item in there for the PD. Yes, they have their own budget. Yes, they have their own events, but at the end of the day, they're representing the town. It's not just a PD event, it's a town event. So if somebody's going to have to suck it up and pay for it out of their budget, that's something that we should be covering. I mean, I get cost-based accounting and attributing, that kind of thing, but at the end of the day, if Emily's going to be as involved in it as she probably is, it's more of a community event than it is a PD event. So if there's going to be a line item to pay for it, I think we should just put it into our events line item and cover it. It never made a whole lot of sense to me to put it there and then have them try to justify the expenditures or the savings.
Roberto, could you put a note, I guess, on that one to, I guess, two things, on 42 and 43, unless there's any objection, if you could put a note in the margin that talks about that being, anticipating the take-home policy, and then on 46, if you could add a note that just says, considering transfer.
C-Town events line
Yeah,
item.
Please.
Bob,
Yes, sir.
if I can just add to what you just said, I totally agree with you.
God, that's twice he said that tonight.
Do you guys want to switch seats, or you guys?
No, we're good. I get our line of sight. Best way to shoot.
I'm going to go over there. and
Notice
hold-
I'm not talking a lot tonight. I'm trying to cut you guys off. Go. Okay. Community, let's see, grant and donation expenditures, 4749. Was that where Chief was having to account for it? It was money he was getting in, so he had to account for it and pay it out? So, okay.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so if those happen in the future, they'll just be rolled into the line?
Yes, correct. What we would do is I would also show the revenue source coming through on the revenue side as the donations and grants additional.
Okay, and then the last one, 57. I think we're missing a zero there. That one back in, whatever, was that under the CIP previously? Was that something different than office supplies?
Yes, that was for furniture. Believe that's,
For the new equipment, new furniture?
yes.
For when they outfitted the building.
When they outfitted the building, yes.
I'm
But
sorry,
you have
that's
to
a
leave,
different one.
but you have to leave the line item in for 5 years.
Yes.
As part of the accounting practice.
So Jake breaks a chair.
Hey,
He's lost a lot of weight.
So,
He breaks a chair.
That goes under office supplies other.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm asking. It says furniture here. We're talking about the big purchase items, the renovation stays on there, goes away.
Yeah, it stays
We
on.
shake the couch cushions and find it.
Yeah, once you put the line item in, before you can get rid of it, you have to leave it in there for 5 years for tracking purposes. So
Okay.
that's the only reason it's there.
Do we want to, I guess if the new chief wants anything, he can just come back and we can,
He's got another line item he can draw from to pay for that.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Hey, Ken, if I may, I just want to go back to the legal services. I'd like staff to just verify the monthly fixed fee for that we're being charged. I know it's in this budget, but it's a question of whether we even ask.
so currently we are at 2,000
Right.
a month. I
Or
would
is
have
the
to,
escalator automatic?
Unfortunately, to be completely honest with you, I have not seen that. Back in 2018.
What's the total?
262 something, I think is what it escalated to. 262.25.
260, no,
It was 240 an hour with a 3% escalator, which is.
no, there's a flat fee for the,
Oh, okay.
there's a flat fee for the prosecutions.
Prosecution's 5%.
How much is it?
5% a year.
I thought you had a flat number for that.
It was 2,000,
Okay,
and then an escalator every year after 2019, July 1st.
so what was it last year?
It was still 2,000.
Still
So that's why I'm
2,000?
afraid to even ask.
Yeah, okay. Why rock the boat?
No,
Maybe
no,
they forgot.
I'd like to clear something up.
Okay,
So
good.
there was they missed it. Vanderpool missed it, but the law, Vanderpool honored the cost, and so they started this year to do the 2,000. It should have started about a whole year ago, I believe. But because we were so into the budget and it was an error on their part, they honored the amount that they would be charging us where we were getting undercharged, and the increase showed up in this fiscal year of 2,000. So that is what happened.
So what is the base prosecution fee per month going to be for the next fiscal year? Is it the same?
If they use the escalation, it would be 2,100.
Right.
Because it'd be 5%.
So you'd have
So then we need to add,
Yes.
I could do that, yeah.
let's go ahead and correct it, because I can't imagine they're going to make the mistake twice.
Nope.
So 2,100 times 12,
For watching.
And
2,200.
they will not make that mistake twice, especially when they said in that memo that they're a lost leader on that.
So we need to add 1,200 to that? Make it 25,200? Yes?
Yeah, I was going to say that one.
Thank you, Ken.
0028, 28,
28.
0028.
Which makes this 8,800.
Can we camp there for a little bit longer? Legal fees,
PDs?
yes. So, Roberto, can I go ahead, Bob? Roberto, so the actuals for 2021 for legal services is 18,780. So this is a COVID season, limited tickets being issued. Is a flat fee just covers whenever they go, or should we expect an increase now that COVID is slowing down?
So with the agreement, to my knowledge, it is a flat fee for like general district court when they're going for traffic. But if there was circuit court, so if it was a felony arrest for something or another, then it could be an additional charge. So the other factor.
And we do see those to some extent every month, every other month. The amounts are relatively negligible.
It's not a high cost, as you can see, because if it was just the flat fee, every single month it would be increments, even increments 2,000. But you can see that we've had some additional services in there.
Well, in that case, should we bump it up even higher than 25,200 and actually just bump it up to 26? If you want to be realistic about it, and if you want to factor in the circuit court charges, we're probably better off just bumping it at 26 and actually making the mark.
That's the direction I'm actually thinking, because if you're already at 18,780 with the increase, and then with the limited amount of court cases, all you have to play with right there is 5,220.
26, everybody? Thanks, because I had forgotten about the circuit court charges, honestly.
I'll wait till you next, I'm sorry, next line, I'm already on next line.
We all set?
Okay, the next section, you'll see that we removed 15,000, which is erosion and sedimentation, under building official. The reason why is because I believe Councilman Morris wanted to have a cleaner report, so it didn't skew the numbers on the public safety solely the police department. So what we did is we actually removed it there, but we did move it down to under public works. These are for inspections that are not a pass-through. There are some times where the inspections are done and not for certain projects that the town's working on, or for anything that, for the Jefferson project example, those are stuff that we couldn't pass through because it was a town project. We kept the amount a little bit less, from 15,000 to 5,000 as a placeholder, with the reason behind it, because many of the inspections will be passed on to the developer or contractor.
Roberto, I know I ask this constantly, but we've got that $10,000 from the fire department grant. Where is the expenditure line item?
I have to submit the accounting to Prince William County for the CARES Act by this Friday, and that's actually my next item that I need to address.
But we have a target for the 10
Yes,
grand?
yes, my goal, well, it's, I'll let all the council know what's going on with it. Basically, we've been collecting funds for a couple of years, and we have not expended those funds. So with this, you can collect it and basically grow it, and then do one larger purchase. So that's something that I'm going to have to get, basically, Roberto to help me with, to audit it, to find the exact amount so that we can figure it out. And then I've got a contact with Prince William County Fire Department that will assist us with kind of how they would request to spend it. And then what'll end up happening is town council will have to make an affirmative action to donate it, and then we'll have to go to the Board of Supervisors for them to accept the donation of those funds. And once that happens, then I'll have to reach back out to the Commonwealth for us to no longer receive those funds because of just the hurdles that we have to jump through now that with the town and the Board of Supervisors. And we also no longer have the volunteer. It was a little bit easier when there was volunteer fire services, but now that they're all through the county, it takes an action from town council as well as the Board of Supervisors. So, yeah, well, I'm going to have to get in there and correct all that. So that's on the plate to do. I just have not completed it yet.
Okay. Marshawn?
Question on, so, and this may be more on the revenue side, but this comes to mind, the profit dollars coming in from Crossroads and from the Van Meter project.
Okay.
The per unit contributions, I guess that's fire rescue, police, schools. So we'll account for that in the revenue. Do we have to have,
So we don't
Line item.
receive all of those funds.
they would pay, they wouldn't pass through us, we wouldn't collect it and then distribute
No,
it?
no, 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 we do collect that. Profit dollars do not go to the school board.
Hold on a second.
I know where you're
It was
going.
per unit contributions to be paid at the time of the occupancy permit for each one of those units. So that's probably something we need to,
I'll let Emily speak on that.
So those are items that we would need to collect and then disperse out as necessary.
Okay.
There are also items that I'll have to sit down with the treasurer. For example, if Crossroads Village starts building upon the issuance of occupancy permits for each townhome, we, as the town administration, receive a proffer, the police department receives a proffer, the town park receives one. So we have several line items there that we would need to basically be ready for that money to come in.
Getting back to what you were talking about earlier, yes, we do proctor those funds. They don't go directly to the county. And in the past, there have been issues with the dispersal of those funds to the county. The public safety funds, obviously, since we have our own police department, we capture that and we put it into the police department. With the fire department, there have been issues with at least one fire chief in the past where the fire chief essentially said, well, you just give us all of that money and we'll determine how we're going to spend it on our own. We're just going to throw it on our general fund and spend it on the, wherever we see fit in the county. And we actually told them, no, that's not the way it's going to happen because of the way that we were able to proctor the fire department funds. We told them that those funds had to be targeted at that point in time because Antioch hadn't been built yet, targeted to either Evergreen or Station 4.
Yeah, I got you. I guess I'm just for a line item, I'm sorry to interrupt, so just asking for the purposes of the budget, we need to have a revenue side that has it, and then we probably need to have, we need to have a.
You don't budget
side.
proffers. You don't budget proffers because you don't know when you're going to get them, if ever.
Okay, but once they come in, we would
Once
have
they
to.
come in,
line
we are
item
going to have to
income,
appropriate them
and
and
we'll have
then,
to-
yeah,
And then how we.
appropriate and allocate.
Okay.
But we're
that's
going to
all
have to get, it's likely to be a little messy.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Same way you don't typically budget for fine revenue.
Understood. Cool.
Anybody else? Okay, moving on.
The next line item is the trash service. This is something that, the 3465 is actually the increase, the annual increase that we have contracted with Republic Service. This line item is actually paid through the revenues we receive through the real estate taxes from residents. I believe the contract states that per unit, they're paying anywhere from townhomes are paying $13.84, and I believe the single-family homes are paying $15.84.
A month?
A month. Yeah, it breaks down to that a month.
Maybe I'm mistaken. I thought there was not supposed to be an increase after the negotiation.
No, so how we did it is we capped the escalation to 4% maximum each year over the 4 years.
So they went 3.9.
So with the factors that go into this, it includes the dump fees that they have to pay to Prince William County, which have gone up specifically with recycling, including fuel costs, things like that. So if they can show actual costs that they have increased, and the 3465, I think we can agree they've actually seen a lot more increase than that. But since we had them capped at 4%, that's the most they can increase because of our contract. Because I believe they tried to increase it higher until, we pointed out and said, no, we have this that caps it at 4%, so they had to amend it.
What is the likelihood of that going up with the townhouses down the road and potentially the 70-some-odd units over here? I don't see this one happening in this fiscal year, but I'm not sure about that one. But that'll be made up on the backside through their real estate collections this year?
Well, and that's where it depends on if
That one's only like $7,000, give or take,
so and that's where I would have to reach
for a
out.
full year, which it's not going to be.
I would need to reach out to Republic to see how.
You said that out loud.
I did?
You did say that out loud.
Good, I'll talk. He just, every time Bob keeps interrupting him when he's talking.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to have to reach out to Republic, and I'll review the contract to verify. But,
I would also just say, I'd be surprised if the townhouses in the Van Meter project are up to occupancy permit by
So
the
would
end of
I.
the fiscal year. They're gonna plan to pull building permits, in the next 6 months, so we're looking at October, they'll be at the building department. And then from there, it takes time to build.
So next year we'll have to worry about it.
Yes.
Okay.
And next year, you'll also most likely have Robinson Paradise to worry about as well, which will be about, I believe, 16 single families.
so what we'll do with that is we will evaluate how Republic wants to address it, if they would be willing to honor those prices, or if they want to try and renegotiate, and if that's the case, then we may have to go back out for bids. So, like I said, we'll address that when necessary, but I don't see with 38 them having to increase their, runs to the dump or anything like that. But if you have Van Meter and Robinson Paradise, then they may have an argument that with the extra houses, they may have to add an extra run each trash day. So then you've got 2 a week, so it's 104 trips to the dump that they're going to have to increase. So there very well could be substantial increases there. So that's just something to take into consideration when we're discussing special use permits and things like that for residential properties, that we could see increases in our trash bills because of it.
Yeah, question?
Real quick, I asked this last time, the street beautification, that's the Haymarket Foundation funds, is it 2,200, the remainder of that distribution? Okay. And then after that, the maintenance of all the flower boxes and stuff like that, that comes under?
That's under the next 43.
Yep, gotcha, thanks.
Okay, Council, the next section is actually the maintenance. This is the funds that we have to maintain the buildings, the plants, the landscaping contract is in here. There's a little bit more on the landscaping for the simple fact that there are some times for events, Haymarket Day, that we have to do an additional cutting of the grass or maintenance of the park to prepare for those events. They do come out and do that, but it's not a part of the whole contract. The snow plowing, snow removal, is there. Street cleaning, the electric gas services for the buildings that the town owns, the electrical for the street lights, water and sewer services, janitorial supplies, which we have there, and then the real estate taxes. These are for properties, though, even though we do own some of the buildings, if we do have tenants, the county will assess a real estate tax, and we will have to pay it. What we have done, though, with more recent leases is that this is passed on to the tenant. So we will go ahead and pay it, but then get reimbursed through the tenant for the real estate tax on their space alone.
And then just another item is with the janitorial supplies, you'll see we're at $123 out of the 2,000. We did get quite a bit of stuff with the CARES Act, as well as our current janitor supplies quite a bit of those materials. So that's something that if it continues, great, then we can save money there. However, if for whatever reason she's not able to provide that same service, or we would have to go with somebody else, it very well could jump right back up. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to leave it there. It's because we have a good thing right now, but there's no oh, go ahead, sorry.
By the same token, it doesn't look like we've ever reached it, have we?
But it's always good to
I
have,
think so.
always
And-
good to keep it. Just never know when you might need to do an extra clean, or place somewhere gets flooded, or you need to do one of those COVID miss jobs, and those are expensive, so.
And, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. There are a few things here on this, the specific stuff that Emily would like to speak to, because she actually sees over.
So I just wanted to kind of call to attention a couple of our, what I call street beautification projects that we do, and some of the money that would be nice to have and things to think about. So I'll start with the planters. So last year, we actually were very blessed. The Town and Country Garden Club, the Haymarket Town and Country Garden Club came in, and they took over kind of the maintenance and the service of our brick planters. So initially, we did put some money forward for buying the plant material, but you probably see them out often. They're weeding them, they're maintaining them, they're adding in new plants. So we have kind of worked out with them that they do that service for us, and we give them $100 a quarter, so seasonally, for them to add some additional plant material into either our planters right out front of our building that they also maintain, or the brick ones. They are, however, mentioning to us, I don't know if you guys realized or noticed, but last year, every single weekend, there were 1 or 2 members that were coming out, and they were watering all of our brick planters by hand with jugs from right back here. They're asking for us to consider getting our landscaping crew to do the watering for us. So at most per month, it's $500 to water. They come out based on how much rain we've gotten and how warm it is. And so that would be for roughly your 7 months that you need to do watering, $3,500. We do not project that it would go over that, but that's just something to keep in mind. We know our residents love seeing the planters in bloom and having them maintained, so in the grand scheme of things, having a club that's taken it on as a service project, I think this could be a small cost that we do just to keep it looking nice. So that's one item. I want to talk about the banners. So we've been pretty good about not needing to order banners lately. We were able in the past few years to do installments, so we didn't get them all at once. However, we will need to start replacing some, probably not this coming year, but in years following. I did want to let you guys know it costs approximately $11,200 for all of the different changes we do.
11,200?
Yes, that's
Each change.
approximate, no, for the year.
Oh, for the year.
So, just a real quick kind of schedule so that you guys understand. July, we put flags and veteran banners up, and then we have to take those veteran banners down no more than a month after they've been up. Otherwise, the sun, the wind, they just get damaged. September, flags go back up and come back down. Fall, we put up the banners in October. November, they come back out for veteran banners. When those come down, wreaths go up. Then we have them back out after the holidays to put up winter. Then you have April, we put up the spring, and May we put up flags, and then we put up our summer banners. So we try to consolidate everything, but the flags and the veteran banners do cause a couple extra trips, but the community enjoys this. One thing Chris and I were just talking about last week, the veteran banners were originally done so that the family sponsored the banner and paid for it. We will have some this year that will not be able to go up, unfortunately, due to sun and wind damage. So they've ripped, because when you put them up there, they act like sails, and the wind that comes down off the mountain it gets a hold of them. So is that something that the council wants to discuss? We set aside a budget to replace the ones we've had, or do we reach out to the families? Something to keep in the back of your mind, Tracy Lynn, maybe we can talk about that. You can kind of get a consensus. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is the street lights. So we have those maintained by Lewis Sublet. He comes in and does the electrical work on them, but between Lewis as well as our landscaping contractor who puts banners up and down, the banner arms are not doing great. I think everybody can kind of see some of them go in different directions than they should. They could be replaced probably very soon. I don't know if it's something we want to create a phasing schedule. That's something I can work on if you're interested. We can go kind of block by block and set aside a certain amount of money. Maybe it's a CIP fund where we say we're going to do 2 blocks at a time each year and work on the maintenance of the street lights. But when you look at the globes that are pretty much brown, and then you have nice, clean, clear ones, you have banner arms that are missing, cracked, going different directions, it just starts to look unsightly, and our town's better than that. So I think it's something we need to think about, the long-term maintenance and how to get on top of it now.
So I'm going to say this back to you. So $3,500 for a potential watering program,
Yes.
but $11,000 for the banner, that's just for the maintenance of the banners. But how much do you think you need just for the banner replacement or purchase?
So each of the veteran banners cost us about $72. I would have to get an inventory of how many would need to be replaced. It has been a couple years since we've ordered, not a couple years, last year I think was last time we ordered a big bulk of seasonal banners, and those run us $4,000, and that's, we can't even buy all the ones we need. That's like buying 20 at a time. So every 2 years, we get installments of them, so that the goal is at least every other street light has something on it during the season. It could also be time to do flags soon, because again, they just fade and they start getting tattered.
And wreaths as well.
Wreaths, a late thank you, but thank you to everybody who helped me restring those this year.
Good job, Bob.
Yeah, Bob and Joe were there, Joe especially, and Mayor and his son were there. It took us several days to restring them all. It was an entire group effort. That will be time, and those are expensive. That is a CIP thing if it fits in that.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. It seemed like the street pole maintenance would be, Bob was already writing down CIP, but these other ones would need to be part of the maintenance?
I think kind of the banner arms throughout the season would be a good maintenance thing that we could go ahead and like start doing, replacing like the lantern heads. That's a good long-term CIP maintenance item. Purchasing and deciding what we want to put up for wreaths, I think that could be a good CIP. Last time I looked and I tried to budget for the right size wreaths and the quantity that we needed, it was $30,000.
Okay.
And those are the ones that are pre-strung. And they're strung on both sides so that when you drive down the street, not just one side of the wreath is lit.
So, Mr. Mayor, it sounds like we need to add a light item for the watering. And Emily, if you guys could estimate or does that just go under maintenance? That's increased
It
our
would
maintenance
fall
costs.
under maintenance. I just wanted to bring it up and let you guys know, kind of twofold. I wanted to let you know how much the garden club's doing for us and also kind of ask that we keep in mind the watering.
The watering would fall under the landscaping,
Line item, okay?
yeah, line item. Should probably change that from just a contract, because it's not solely the contract. There is additional, like I stated, if there's additional landscaping work that we need to be done in the town, that's the line item we usually tend to pull from.
And then the banner one will either be a CIP or you'll find a line item to put it under here. And then also the replacement of the light poles, is that part of the CIP as well?
Yeah.
When
Should be.
cars hit them?
So when
No,
cars hit-
those are replaced by.
When cars hit them,
insurance.
insurance will cover those, so that's taken care of. But if you guys want to start discussing swapping out the very light green ones for the darker green, or if you want to talk about a painting program where we go through and we do some maintenance in that case, those are the things we'll just have to talk about.
Okay.
I think,
Thank you.
saw Chris's hand.
Thank you,
first.
sir. So just looking at the amount that you have here so far, watering, it's 3,500 per year. The banners, the cost of 11,200, is that the cost just to change out the banners?
That is correct. So from what I tallied up here, there's 8 occurrences that they come out during the year. And again, I try to be as efficient as
Right.
possible, but that is 11,200.
So do you think it is possible to find someone who works part-time for the town, that portions of this amount could be paid to? And that person would be responsible for changing out the banners? The problem I have with landscape companies watering our plants is if those plants die, who's responsible? Is it the Town and Country Garden Club, or is it the landscapers?
So in the past year, our garden club has very graciously gone in and said, we see something died, it's frustrating, we know you can't water them during the week because you have a full-time job, but
Exactly.
we'll replace it.
But if we have someone on staff, part-time or otherwise, that we could tap into and know that that's their responsibility in watering it, it's the same money. We're just giving it to someone who we could use those 5 months outside of the summer period. We could use that person elsewhere. Someone who may supplement Mr. Thomas in picking up trash on on certain days or during certain events. But, go ahead.
If you ask me personally, I think yes, it's the right decision. I think when it comes to event days, farmers market days, Haymarket Day, having someone that we can rely on to, like you said, put the trash cans out, you know, do a quick pickup around the park. If there's things that need to be leaf blown off the sidewalks, the little things. Sometimes we get a storm through here and branches fall down. Chris and I are over at the museum picking branches up because our crew just goes right around them.
Understand. So maybe this, in approaching, maybe this is a different way to approach this. First of all, thank you for reviewing the number of times that we set up the banners and take them down. I still think we can go much less than 8. I think we could look at maybe alternate every other, you know, when during the different seasons instead of Christmas, you know, because there's a time where you.
So,
go ahead.
I'll break it down real quick. So, one of the things that makes it so that we have as many as we do is hitting July 4th with flags and veteran banners, hitting September 11th with flags, hitting Veterans Day with the banners, coming back in November to put the wreaths back up, and then coming back in January to take Christmas wreaths down. So those are our 5 big hitters that we want to be patriotic. We want to have those nice things. And May, Memorial Day is kind of an extra trip there, but we hit summer banners and we just put them up early in May.
I understand. And you guys have been doing good with the schedule of it. But I'm just going towards the money side to see if we could bring it something in-house.
One thing to think about that we did try to consider, so if you do hire somebody, keep in mind when the guys get out there and do it with Premier, it takes 2 of them. One of them stands at the base of a 16-foot ladder and the other climbs up and does it. If you hire somebody, you know, maybe you have to have 2 individuals for banner days, or we have to pay money and rent equipment. We also don't have a service vehicle, a truck to use around town, and we also don't have something for watering purposes. So would we have to then invest in a little golf cart with a watering tank to fill it up out back? So those are some of the other items we've thought about, because
I understand, but if you get
adds
a
up.
directive to look to see how we can solve this problem internally, you would come up with different ideas.
100%. We can buy a gator. Chris
With
can
a plow,
drive it.
with a plow
Chris can
on the
drive
front.
it. I'll spray the water.
As far as the street lights and the arms for the street lights, I think it is something that we do need to approach on a timely basis to try to change them out. There is traffic systems that's in Manassas. I don't know if you could send you their information, but they do have, maybe they did send a price quote here once. But they're the ones that supply Manassas and Arlington and Fairfax. Traffic systems that does all the street lights. Yeah.
So one of the things with our streetlights that we've run into is just the uniqueness of them. So
And they can
finding-
research it, let them do the research and find the parts and the things. And because the more you get other people involved, then it has a warranty on them. Phase schedule, the banners, street lights. And yeah, my biggest concern was if the landscape was going to be, landscapers would be responsible if the flowers die. Because we have some great volunteers. We don't want to take advantage of them, you know. But if they know that it's our staff that's watering them, or our part-time staff that's watering them, and maybe it's something different. Maybe it's not just a handyman. Maybe it's someone with a little bit of electrical background, or you know, someone who can maintain and.
So,
Yeah.
just with that, the more expertise, general contractor, handyman type, then you start increasing hourly rates and things like that. Because we have at one point looked into getting a maintenance person to be able to come in, Mr. Sublette, who does a lot of our work, and it was quite expensive. It would have been the highest paid employee on the admin side. So that's something where it would need to be like a part-time person to be able to come and do that. And I do think, like Emily said, between, you know, having a gorilla cart with, you know, 100 gallons of water, and if he's got to go back and forth several times to do it, so be it. But, you know, we're paying $50 an hour for the company to come water. So if we're paying less than that, you know, that's saving us money in the long run. Same thing with the banners. If we're not paying, $1,600 to $2,000 each time, I think it sounds like it's dormant.
So my view on it, and please, I apologize for taking up so much time. My point on it is, if you have someone that you already is contracted to water the plants and it's not needed today, you just had that person to clean out this closet. You just use that person to, walk the town and do something else that's on your list that you just can't get to.
And
So those are benefits of having someone internal.
And we absolutely have long maintenance lists that could be done, so.
Exactly.
That's what your interns do during the summer too, right?
Yes, and I could be wrong, I don't want to speak for them, but I would be surprised if we get them back this year. They should be graduating college very soon, and they'll have to get full-time jobs, so. They were great help, and if we have people like that, but the thing is, the gap months. So, right now, like, the planters need watering, and, Shelley and I used to take one of the crystal things and fill it up, and just take turns walking them down and watering at the end of the day. So,
Emily, start thinking how we can go above and beyond in thanking those volunteers.
okay.
Also,
Thank you, sir.
we've talked about this for a long time, trying to expand that volunteer base. I remember when Jen was here, she was able to really call on a whole different group of folks to volunteer and help out. So, that's another avenue. I mean, yeah, cost is the cost, and we want to make it look nice and make sure everybody enjoys paying their taxes. But we need to look at that volunteer base as well, I think, right? Whether it's the Boy Scouts and the schools or things of that nature, for certain things. I'm not saying they're doing banners or any of that kind of stuff, because we don't want any liability issues. Absolutely no, that's not what I'm talking about. But for those types of things, like we had the young gentleman did his Eagle badge when he did the different sewer systems.
So for those projects, 100% we reach out. I've called on the Garden Club for other things. Dominion Women's Club helps us with some plantings. It's when it gets to the weekly task that it's hard to ask. I mean,
The
you guys
commitment.
know,
Yeah.
it's hard to ask you guys for a lot. And the Garden Club joked, each council member could adopt a planter. And I was like, they already do so much,
Well-
so. We tried to get the businesses to adopt them last summer.
I know what I'll be planting.
Come July.
It's legal.
We'll make sure to put names on the planters.
Where your minds are. You see where your minds are.
Visual
I was thinking apple.
No woman, no cry. I think Bob wants
you
to.
done, Joe?
I think Bob wants to say something.
Bob.
What's the estimated cost on a banner arm repair?
Depends. If you would like to have 4 so that you can put 2 items up, or if you would just like to have 2. If you just want 2, probably $500 to get the supplies, another $100 to install it. If you want the 4, we're probably talking like $1,500.
How many of them need repair?
So we have roughly 84 lights, and I would bet we probably need 60 that need a good, healthy repair. You could probably salvage some of the arms, but they're gonna need some work.
$36,000.
It's a lot. They're expensive.
It's between 36 and 90,000 if you guys wanted the 4 arms. And
All right.
that's just for the banner arms.
All right.
And that doesn't include the heads, right? I mean.
Right, and so like a lot of the finials on the end that keep the
Yeah.
banner's arm are off, so we zip tie everything these days. That's not a good look either.
Yeah.
All right. Here's what I would suggest. I've been looking back at the CIP, and in theory, that should be an annual cost that's borne into the budget, but it never has been for replacement. And I guess we're so far down the road in terms of pieces of the streetscape that need to be repaired or replaced. I'm looking at the CIP that we inherited, and it's got painting the light poles. I don't view that as a CIP expense. I view that as just a maintenance expense that should be, part of our annual maintenance budget. I can't see replacing all 60 at one shot. We just can't do it. Well, we could, but I'd rather get in a position where we're doing an annual sort of thing. We have a CIP line item for benches, pads, bike racks, trash cans, all that, and the painting of the posts. What I would suggest is we change that line item to replacement of banner arms to some degree, the worst, a block's worth, whatever. Replacement of, and this is just me personally spitballing it, replacement of the veterans banners on our dime that are damaged beyond repair. We can leave benches, trash cans, and all of that in there, but we've already taken care of it with the COVID funds. And mark that at 30,000 in the CIP, and then Joe and I will find the 30,000 on July 1.
Okay.
So I do have one question. If we're talking about also updating the sidewalks, wouldn't it be?
Separate thing. That's a separate line item.
But I was gonna say, wouldn't it be, if we're gonna go block by block with the sidewalks, we could do the street lights at the same time? So then you get the sidewalk,
We could work
street
that in
lights,
too, yeah.
and that way we know, and we can develop a plan so that how we move forward, it's all getting updated together. Because the other thing that I'm thinking of is some of these may have electrical issues, if we gotta run new wire, things like that. Well, if you're getting the sidewalk out of there, you can run the wire, so you might as well kill two birds with one stone, and it would cost us a little less probably.
I'm just worried about the flag or the arms right now. We'll worry about the poles themselves and the electrical service when we start doing the sidewalk.
The question I have, Mr. Mayor, just for Bob, is would you think of, there are some poles that needs to be changed or updated? You said there are some with a different green?
So, the oldest ones, and you'll see it when you, in the daylight tomorrow, check it out when you drive through town. So the ones right here in these two blocks between Madison and Fayette, they're gonna be a lighter, what I call seafoam green, because they've just faded over time. And as you work further out, they just get darker because they're newer. Eventually, they might all be the same color, but if that doesn't bother anybody,
But
everything
Bob, you're suggesting
ages.
just the arms, just focus on the arms right
Focus on the arms. Let's take care of what we can take care of.
Yep.
Because they are getting increasingly, they've been neglected for far too long.
But I do want to add what Chris mentioned, if we're gonna, down the road, look at the paving, that's the best time to do electrical work. And we did find a few of them that weren't working during our Haymarket setups, and that's a good time to look at the electrical work.
I'll check with our electrician. Right now, I only know of one that does not work, and that's because McDonald's, something happened and the line was cut. So we have a plan for that one that permanently doesn't work. Everything else should be up and running.
Some of the businesses just don't turn them on.
The businesses?
So
They're-
a lot of them are wired into, like over by CVS, it's wired into the building. Same thing with the Remax building, it's wired into that building. Some of ours are all wired up to our electrical shed. Sometimes if we have issues over there,
It
ours
has a lock on it, correct?
should, yes.
Last I checked, it didn't.
That will
Come
be
on, Chris.
verified.
It's been like a year ago.
What you're saying is we have.
You're not getting a security camera for the shed.
Yeah,
They just want a lock on it. They just want a lock that Chris and his team knows the combination.
getting back to the lights. So what you're saying is we have control over some, but not everything.
And it has been an issue over the years with some.
That is correct, and we've had, let's put it this way, when Lewis can't service our lights anymore, we'll be in a world of hurt, because the knowledge that he has on where everything is, it's something we need to document.
Yes,
With
that's it.
him.
I was just going to say, we should be documenting
Yeah.
that for the future.
Yes.
Do we really actually need all those lights in the streetscape?
Sometimes it looks like a lit runway, and you know, maybe Marshawn would like to add to that.
Go ahead.
One of the things I was going to suggest is deflectors. We're belaboring this conversation, but something in the CIP is that we change out to put deflectors in them, because right now we light pollute. It does. It looks like a runway coming
And
off.
I can
right
add
now.
that in here under banner arms.
So,
And,
but, you know what I'm saying, about where you have the deflector so that it shines it back down, and that should change. I think, that- I understand what you're saying, just it's so bright.
and
Having that
honestly,
directional lights may change it.
I was gonna say, honestly, we also switched out the light itself. We went to a more efficient LED, thinking, you know, more efficient, cost saving on electrical. That also got brighter, so. And then, you know, you lose some of the lights and you put up the nice crystal clear globes. That's even brighter. A lot of ours are very yellow, which helps dim them.
About this, I'll work with Emily
Yep.
on revising this draft CIP that's going to the planning commission next Monday.
Correct. Yes.
And I'll try and incorporate all of this into the CIP, and then Joe and I will find the money and do it in next fiscal year.
To Joe's point, in the zoning ordinance rewrite, if you could look at the distancing as well. I can't
I'm
remember-
all for that. I mean,
I can't remember what the ordinance requirement is for how, you were talking about how many we have. I want to say there was a number like 25 feet apart or
I
something
believe
like
it's
that.
30 feet and follows closely behind the trees.
I agree that there are far too many of them.
So to your point, maybe we can change the standards so that we don't have to have as many.
But, yeah,
Might
but if you
help
change
us.
the standards, then you're gonna have,
So do we change the standard, and then when you go and you do stamped concrete, you take a couple out, you take care of covering it up, and then you can put the rest of them in at the park and all the other places we
but
don't
will it
have
look
them,
weird? I don't know.
Okay.
probably.
Future discussion,
Yeah.
we're all getting pulled down the rabbit hole.
No,
Yeah, let's move on.
speaking of stamped concrete, so where are we getting the funding if we piggyback on their contract across the street? Is that going to be this year's budget or next
Thought it
year's?
was.
It'll probably end up being this year.
That's what I
Okay.
thought.
I swear, so if you look now, are you getting maintenance up?
We're down there. Economic development.
Keep going. So as you can see right there, we've got budgeted 119,000, and as of right now, we are at 51,437 for repair and maintenance.
Right. Okay. We don't know what the number is, but we're working on that.
We do not, but, I mean, it's a healthy, $60,000 that we have as of right now. There are certain things that we need to get done, but we have accomplished quite a bit already.
We've also got a capital improvement fund that's untouched at 76, it's almost 77 grand.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
I'm
anything
just
else?
thinking about the hotel and the utilities.
Oh, that's
Oh.
another issue.
That's another issue.
Jefferson Street, we have that on the CIP, right?
Yeah, but where the money's coming from, that's another story.
Well, I think
Well,
that's
the turn.
more of the grant area, perhaps. I think Chris has been talking about that. There's no way we could fund that.
That's where it's gonna have to be a partnership, whether it's us in the county, us in the state. If we gotta get grants from somewhere else, it's just not feasible for us to spend, 30% of our budget pretty much 2 years in a row to accomplish that. It's not an option. So if we can try and get like a 80-20 match or something similar to that, then we may be able to do it. But that's where council needs to decide what's the main focus. Is the main focus going to be the curb and gutter and sidewalk in front of the park?
Whoa.
Or the,
I'll take that as a no.
yeah,
Take out the streetlights?
or is it going to be the turn lane? That's kind of where I think feasibly, I think the town could accomplish the park sidewalks and finishing that streetscape up to Blight. Where the turn lanes, like I said, it's going to take collaboration with outside
In
entities.
a number
So,
of years.
That's the 2.3 on here?
yes.
Okay.
And that's kind of a ballpark that we're anticipating. Now, some of those funds, like I've mentioned before, we do have land value assessed anywhere from 300 to 500,000, just depending on the price per acre, because we've got the land, we own the land on this side, and then the hotel has deeded that same amount of land on the other side of Washington Street. So since we own that land, that's where I would argue if we're going to do, land acquisition is quite expensive when you're dealing with road expansion. So that's something where I would argue that that could be part of our contribution. So hopefully if we could get, $500,000 for land contribution and then potentially 300,000, that would get us to that 800. But like I said, that's something that is going to take outside agencies.
Couldn't get a bill.
All right, so the next thing we're at is the economic development. That's where we have the tourism and travel marketing, which is going to go back to the hotel. And then we have,
Both sides.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
so we've got just the tourism and travel marketing, and then the general unrestricted, which is going to come from the TOT. That's a placeholder for right now. Hopefully everything continues and they open in the first quarter of 2020, which would be fourth quarter of our budget. And the other one we've got is advertising. We may want to change the name a little bit because that's where Miles Freeman has done a presentation for vice mayor, which we can share with you guys. So essentially for $12,000 a year, they would help kind of orchestrate an economic development plan and help advertise with different, or they would help with advertising and helping our businesses get the resources they need to continue to grow and be more successful. So that's something that we had in there, as well as $10,000 for advertising. So as you guys know, the Skipper films that came in for CARES Act, that video cost us a little under $10,000 to create and advertise. So that's why we figured if we put $10,000, we should be able to do something similar. They did help us out because we were in a little bit of a bind and we had to get it done by December. So that's one of the other reasons why they helped us out. So realistically, it probably would cost us about $10,000 if we were to do the same video next year. So that's why we basically have the video and advertising, what we did, as well as Mr. Friedman coming in and helping the businesses with a basically contract economic development.
Is there any reason that 10,000 next year couldn't come out of the new care fund, or the new funds?
As you know, we do not have any guidelines for right now. So I think this is something, Mayor has also spoke to it, that it's a priority that we need to start giving back to the businesses. Honestly, I think that between meals tax, business license, and some other ones, we should probably be giving back about 10%. And we're not even close to that. If we were giving back 10%, it should be close to about 90,000 between meals tax and business license. So that's just something that I think, as a town and town council, it should be our responsibility to help the businesses as much as we can. And I think this is a good first step. Now, I agree, if we can use the ARP funds, just like, the vouchers, let's do it. But I think we also need to take the step in budgeting so that we'll continue to do so in the future when we may not have the CARES Act or the ARP funds.
I'm good.
Okay, so just to be clear for my edification, line item 60,000, that tourism and traveling, marketing, that's the 3% requirement that we pay to them from the TOT?
Correct. So
Okay.
they will collect 7%, and then as long as they advertise and send us an invoice, then they would be able to get that money
Right.
back. However, if they don't invoice us, then that would come to the town, which we would have to spend it on the tourism and business advertising. That's
Right.
what you have to spend it on. So
Right.
that's the healthy, tourism and travel marketing. Even in the future, if that agreement was done and over with, we still are going to end up having to have a tourism and travel marketing line item specific to that 3% that we receive from TOT tax. So we might as well start now and just keep it going.
And then the 60,001, the general unrestricted, that's the 4%.
Exactly. So that's the
Right.
4% that's unrestricted that we can put wherever. As of
Right.
right now, Roberto and I wanted to put that in there just to show you guys we're
Right.
bringing in the $1,000, and then that's where we would expend it unrestricted. However, realistically, when we go to do it, when the hotel opens, you will probably just have 60,000 and then 60,003, because the one will be put somewhere else, whether it's part-time maintenance, person or whatever.
Then in that case, I would say just take 6,001 out right now, renumber it, and put that 570 somewhere else, rather than create another budget line item that's unnecessary.
So where do you want to put it?
I'm open to suggestions.
Well, is council okay with that? Like I said, really,
It's
this-
not gonna serve a purpose beyond this year, so why carry it forward for 5 years?
Because you know that's where it's going to go.
and that's true. But like I said, so that's the one thing that Roberto and I did want to just articulate that, so all of council kind of got an idea of how the breakdown was going to look for the hotel when that does come forward. So if you guys want to remove that, we can change that. We just,
Stick it up in maintenance services,
maintenance services.
431001, and just eliminate 6001. So you would,
So what we'll probably do is we'll change the advertising item to 6001. Is that-
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
so that'll make,
I- one
where do you
sugge-
want, I mean,
One
where would you
one
put it?
suggestion right now is, because it is a working document right now, why don't I just remove it for now? And then when we go on the revenue side, I'm sure there's gonna be some things that are gonna change there too, and we'll see where we end up.
Okay,
Just to be that, instead of trying to figure it out now.
just take it out and we'll have extra, yeah.
Exactly,
that's
and then
fine.
we can see where it goes, because it will go to the general.
Okay.
Once we change on the revenue side, we have to decrease items and increase them.
Yeah, just dump it.
Okay.
So the next one, we've got Haymarket Community Park. Yes, we have 19,000 or 18,000 and some change left. However, we're waiting on the structural supports underneath. It's supposed to be going in. So that is almost 10,000 there. And then with that, we also have gotten a quote for some of the shade systems. I sent that to a couple of you guys. So there's a very small one that was 25,000. So we'll see how much that ends up costing for some of the bigger options.
Would that be under CIP or be under,
Well, so we just went to get a quote for it, and that's basically it was like a golf umbrella, putting it on top of it was 20,000. So when we get the other options, it may end up having to be CIP, but
okay.
yes. So,
And just so you guys are all aware, the reason why you see the 65,731 and then the 45,000, that's the actual park, the structure, the playground. We were able to split it in 2 different fiscal years. What you're seeing right now in the actuals is actually for the service for the
they replaced
animal
the
waste.
dog poop bags.
That. So that is, we have, some of it goes to maintenance, the ones that are on the street, Main Street, and then, of course, the ones that are in the park. are paid
The
out of
the
that.
mowing and stuff like that is under our,
Landscape.
Landscape contract,
under 15 or 431,000? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Wanted to suggest we budget a porta-john for up there. Would
That's,
that be a maintenance or would that be a,
so we're looking at that. Emily and I discussed on Saturday potentially getting a porta-john for the farmer's market and then maybe one for the park as well. So we'll look at it and see if it's going to be repair and maintenance or the park. But yes, I think that is something that we need to look at because it also needs at least weekly service, I believe, if it's going to be a long-term one. So,
And I was just gonna add real quick, we have a quote from our local guy who does all of our events, and it would only be seasonal. So we wouldn't be doing it January to December, it'd be like April to November, I think we talked, or remove it on Haymarket Day. The park would be different. This one would be like the season of the market. The park, maybe not have it in winter months. We can talk.
I'm going to have some, when we get to the CIP, and I don't know if we're doing this tonight, hopefully we do it tonight, but I'll have some other suggestions on things we could do at the park. But
Please come next week and work on the CIP with the Planning Commission.
Okay, sounds good. That's all I have, thank you.
and then I'll let Emily also go to, or did anybody else have anything about the park? I'm sorry.
Nope, looks good.
Okay, because like I said, we also have maintenance for the playground and stuff like that. I do want to keep money in there so that we can maintain that. So that is a focus. And then I'm going to let Emily go ahead and talk about events because that's her jam.
I will keep it brief. We plan to do about 3 events so far this coming new fiscal year. We would like to do a summer concert in August. That was a really big hit for us when we did it 2 summers ago. We'd really like to bring that back. My goal for that would be to get a lot of sponsorship money involved to the best of our ability. I've not tested the waters yet with sponsorships, post last year with COVID. We will do Haymarket Day. One of the things that I'm going to work with Vice Mayor on is what does Haymarket Day 2021 look like? How are we going to scale it back, and how is that going to reduce the cost? Typically, so that you guys know, the last 2 years I've done Haymarket Day has been, the first year I did it was 54,000. The second year I think we came in closer to 50. So if we don't get sponsorship money and vendor money, we'll need to change that. But again, that's something I'll work with Vice Mayor on. And then we will do our holiday event. Hopefully all goes well. We can do a nice event this year. We have started our farmers market. Pretty much, I think all you guys were able to come out. I will say that the town, we have put a little bit of money towards that this year, and I think we can come up with a plan so that next year that's not the case. But that's kind of where we stand with events so far.
So contractual, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Oh,
No, go ahead. I'll wait.
age before beauty.
So it does involve the park as well. I'm sorry to step back a second. Are we still looking to use that for events, the building itself? Is that still in the works? And is the thinking of the folks that might be going into doing events there, possibly picking up some of the events?
So where we stand on that, aside from saying a big I don't know, yes, they're still interested. They hope to have something to us by May. They wanted to do it the right way and take their time on a business plan. So I've kept in touch with them. They're still working on it. As for them taking events, yes, we would like for them to be more involved. So right now what that would look like is for this first year, we would still play a really big part, and here's how we do it, here's our expectation. And then we would let the council decide, please let them take over, X, Y, Z of the event. Long-term goal is we have a great community partner, and they do most of the work, and if anything, we do some of the funding.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Marchand.
Well, and just one other thing is we do need to get those support systems in the basement replaced before they can really get in there and probably get a full, contractor bid for what all it's going to take. That's another thing just another item that we need to address.
Right. Good, Marchand.
7-Eleven, 001 events, advertising events, that's going to be rolled up above in economic development.
No, these are completely separate.
Okay, but
These are advertising for the events and the events
well,
only.
zeroed out right now. Does that? Anyways,
So did we zero it out because we haven't received any money yet?
So we zeroed it out as part of one of the amendments we did, just because there was no events going on this year. So we zeroed it out, but as you can see now with the farmers market picking up and in the business roundtables, I have been allocating money to that so we can, track how much it's costing us. I could change that. As you know, there's another 10,000 on the other, which is for any other cost. So we could, on the budget for the.
Why don't you split that between the two line items?
Change that.
we'll have another, sorry.
So I just want to backtrack to some previous years to kind of explain what happened in 2020 and 2019. So the reason that was so high in advertising is because the former council requested those big road signs for Haymarket Day. And when you have to pay for those, it's about $8,000. So that's where some of that advertising cost was expensive. One of the things that we also can consider, and I'll debrief Vice Mayor on all of this and let her bring it to you guys, but for example, if you put an ad in Haymarket Lifestyle and it's a full page, you're paying $1,200. So at some point we have to decide what's the best advertising for us, and I think it's the free 99 option on social media.
Wait a minute, we're paying $8,000 for those mobile?
Yes, there were a couple years where they were able to get them on loan, and there were a couple years where we did rent them for 2 weeks at a time, and 1 to 2 weeks at a time, and it was $8,000 for the 2 to 4 of them that we had.
But now we have one.
Don't we have two?
That is correct. We do now have them, but we were still utilizing those as well as additional units that we rented. We got some feedback that there were better ways to advertise and direct traffic, so that's kind of what we're working towards.
Political gain, I'm sorry.
So in that case, I would suggest taking that 10 grand and splitting it in two. Just to keep, this is to act as a placeholder for both line items.
And then Emily, the contractual services, prior years it was 57 and 60. What was
So-
all that?
That's where you have Haymarket Day stuff coming in.
Okay,
So we get a lot of the vendor fees and sponsorships, and then we pay out porta potties,
Gotcha, okay.
play events, bands, you name it, we pay it. That's where it went.
And we don't need to beef that up because we're looking at a protracted event.
To be decided, it all depends how sponsorship monies come in, and I'll really start with that at the end of this month, early May. We'll get a good idea.
Yeah, so when we accept those funds in, then we'll have to,
Adjust accordingly. Okay.
exactly, so we'll have to adjust it anyway.
We would do a budget amendment halfway through the year once,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we would probably have to do it before that so we could appropriate it for the event.
Okay.
But yes, we'll have to probably change it as the year goes.
But it's an unknown, especially at this point in time.
Obviously, you know I have a learning curve tonight, so I appreciate your patience. So.
And then, Emily, you want to do the museum too?
So currently, the museum, as you guys all know, Haymarket Coffee is over there. It's been wonderful. They're now open 7 days a week, and we can get foot traffic back in there. For this fiscal year, I do still need to work on getting some of our long-term displays done up, but we keep a pretty minimal budget so that we have a little bit that we can work on each year over there for our displays, doing some different, let's see, what else do we have? Sometimes we need the office supplies to get some of that stuff done. And then books, dues, and subscriptions. So we do have to pay for, like, the signs. We have to do some annual fees for us to keep those historic markers. So that falls in that. And then telecommunications, we do have is it phone line and internet? Just phone line? We have the phone line over there that's hooked up to the fire system. Although to be determined on the fire system, I have to be honest, we need to look into that, because we had the fire alarm going off and everybody I called said they didn't have it really in their system, so we'll get back to you.
Well, it probably still goes to Orion, which may or may not be in business anymore, because they used
They
to
are
call me at
not.
2:30 in the morning.
I got a 6:30 call from the coffee guys and they are not in service, and Verizon cut our line on accident, so we'll figure that out. There could be a better system in place, maybe,
Well,
at a cheaper price.
Marshawn?
Overall, it's great we're starting to repurpose or reinvigorate that space. I'm hoping with the hotel and coming in, other things that will, and also with all the new residents we'll be having soon, that we'll get some renewed interest in volunteer staffing of that and really be able to, once, I assume at some point Haymarket Coffee will relocate, and we can, and be able to put some more time and effort. We've got a lot of inventory upstairs to display and catalog. I'm comfortable keeping it kind of low, especially with Haymarket Coffee in there, but I'm hoping that in future years, we'll be able to put more money into it and really begin to utilize that space.
I agree.
Is it just me, or does anyone else have any concerns with the smoking over there? That it may, the smell of it inside the museum may tarnish the museum, or is it just?
Smoke inside?
The smoking's outside on the platform.
I stayed over here and smelled it, so it's somehow coming from the back all the way across. Is it of no concern, or it's not?
I'll be honest, personally, because of COVID, I cannot smell that, so, thank you for that laugh. So, like, I did not notice it, I did see them yesterday smoking back there. I have not received any complaints. I did mention to one of the Haymarket Coffee gentlemen, I said, you know, please keep in mind, this is a public space still with the museum. We ask that you guys are courteous of others. I have been told that those who do smoke out there are very polite when others will show up and they'll, you know, move to the side. We can mention it again. But again, I have not heard any complaints. I don't know if that's because they don't know who to complain to, though.
And that's it. If they think it's just a smoking joint, then they're not going to complain. I just would like someone else to take a look at it from different eyes, maybe someone on the council, just so that because I tend to be a little bit biased in looking at stuff like that, so I'd rather someone else take a look at it, and if they think it's not a big deal, I'm totally fine with it.
If somebody's around on a Sunday, I do know it's the cigar club that gathers up there on Sundays, so maybe if somebody can swing by and
You don't want to get yelled at?
get another opinion.
You don't want to get yelled at, so you'll send one of us?
No, it's not that. It's just that I'm a little bit biased towards it. You know, I feel like it's bad
Trying to make
publicity.
this quick, we're dragging this on, so.
I guess my only question is, what's the policy?
I believe we'll have to look back, but I don't think that we can restrict smoking outdoors. I mean, you can start looking into restricting it within 25 feet of the building, being its significance and such, so we'll look into it.
Okay.
How about the caboose? Is there any need to itemize any type of maintenance for the caboose?
We're gonna have to address that in repairs and maintenance. Because that's not gonna have to be specific to the museum, because it's also, as you guys can see, just driving down the street, you can now see the peel and paint and stuff like that.
Peel.
One of the issues is probably gonna be how we're gonna do it. That's something that Emily and I have discussed. If it's gonna be something where, if we have to sandblast it all the way to the metal and then repaint it with base coat and everything, or if we can just try and piecemeal it. But, I mean, I think you guys know
That's what happens when you don't primer it and use the
yeah,
wrong paint.
so that's, I mean, my stance on it is if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. So it's just one of those things, trying to find someone who knows how to paint cabooses, I think is gonna be a little difficult. But,
Well,
Need a train guy.
I mean, I can go back and talk to the mechanical department folks where I used to work, because they used to paint all the equipment in the program. But I thought somebody was into looking at perhaps using that space, and would that be part of what they would be doing?
I would still like a, itemized list of how they should do it, instead of saying, hey, you guys maintain
Okay,
the
I can get
caboose.
that.
Just if they're gonna do it.
I mean, one of the things that they'd have to be concerned about is remediation, either lead paint and/or asbestos, probably, on
I'm
the
sure there's
inside.
lead paint on that caboose.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's old enough.
I'm also concerned about the deck, stoop, whatever it is
We've already been
on the west. I
discussing,
mean, I want that gone.
we've already been discussing Boy Scout, like an Eagle Scout project. So that may be something that we can have them assist us with. Or at the end of the day, I mean, it could take 2 or 3 of us with some sledgehammers and just take that down, because there is that access on the deck itself.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's crazy for us to,
It's unsafe as it is right now.
yeah, so I mean, maybe that's what we'll do this Sunday. We can come up and take it down and just put the wood in the dumpster back here.
I'll bring a chainsaw and a sledgehammer.
It's hard to believe this. On that note, the cherry tree, and then that tree in the back by the hotel, that's coming.
We got a plan, it'll come down, the one in the back as well as the cherry tree, and then we had the landscape guys give us the prices to replace that cherry tree, so that's something we're gonna move forward with.
What?
Cutting down the tree.
Yeah, but nobody asked us. I mean, my chainsaw is just sitting there
Well,
waiting.
bring it, we'll
waiting.
do
wanna cut
the
it- do you wanna
steps
cut
and
it
the
down
tree.
on Sunday?
Knowing my luck, it'll fall the wrong way and hit the museum, so never mind.
Yeah, we'll get it safely removed and disposed of.
Thank you.
Okay,
And that's under this line.
The smoke
just
on
three-
Sunday might.
That's under this year's budget, so we're good.
Yeah.
Take it down in about 20 minutes.
Next.
Okay, now we got Planning Commission.
I have an issue with the $30,000 engineers.
Thank you, Bob. Wait a minute, isn't that Katie, though?
So, before you go any further, I can see why you have an issue there. You got to remember that when this budget was constructed last year, we were not doing this whole pass-through tracking.
That number does not belong there.
Okay. We discussed that, but, yeah, but if, just to put it out there though, while we've been tracking this, just to show that how much is actually a pass-through, you can see the 10,585. Right now, if we would have kept it the other way in the past couple of years, that would have put us at 20,534.74. So if this is a number also you guys would want to reduce, this is something we could look at, because it is showing here that since we're passing on the cost a lot to the developers and contractors, we may not need as much there in the
How
engineering
much
line.
can we, if we're going to leave it there, and I don't believe it belongs here, because it sort of misconstrues what the purpose of the engineer is.
So are you talking about something similar to how we have legal service for the admin above?
Yeah.
All right, Roberta and I can talk about that and see if we can move
I mean,
it.
we-
Because it's not changing the budget at all, then you're
No.
okay with the numbers?
No, I'm not okay with the number. You said we can reduce it. How much can you reduce it by?
Do you want to utilize the engineer for any of our?
That's what I was gonna say.
projects?
That's the other thing, is if we're
If
talking
we're
about
utilizing
streets.
the engineer for a project, for a CIP project, then that engineering cost is built into the project cost.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
You're saying zero it out or just reduce it?
Reduce.
I understand what it is, but I think it's also inflated.
Because there's a pass-through requirement.
15? That works for me. And I'll stop, and I will squawk. Stop
That's real
squawking.
money.
15,
Okay.
he said 15, I'll go with 15.
So we're reducing the consultant's engineer to 15, and then we're gonna remove consultant's engineer and engineer pass-through and try and bring it up like near, or treat it the same way we treat legal service, where it's
Okay.
basically two
Yeah.
separate.
What was the ha-ha for?
He said, hold on.
Oh, hold on. I thought it was ha-ha. I thought he was, directing something at Emily. And leave that at 0, right?
Enough numbers to
Why don't
squeeze it in there?
guys, and at the next meeting, we can,
Well, you've got an engineer pass through down here, just leave it at 0.
We'll work out something and bring the edits.
good.
Yeah, I can live with it that way. I still think it should be a separate category.
Don't call on Marchand.
Teacher, could you, this assumes fully staffed at all? At
Yes.
9 members? Okay.
Are you I'm sorry, what was the question?
Members.
I'm sorry, the salaries and.
Oh, yes.
7 members.
I do have a concern about the training and education on this for the Planning Commission as well as potentially for the BZA. Can we take a look at that? I know we talked about it at the last meeting. I'm not sure you had a chance to really think about it too much, but is that enough, or do we have to increase it to get these folks qualified and certified?
I'll work with Roberta. We had a really good class actually lined up right before COVID happened, where we were gonna get commission and staff even, we were all gonna go. I have to look back at the pricing of that. It was through, Together Towns were gonna do it so they could get a cheaper rate. The only problem that I'm running into is getting the commissioners to commit and to do it. So I don't know if that can be a directive from council to have requirements, but that might be something council discusses.
That's a good idea. I like the idea. We certainly need them to get trained.
Some really
There's-
want to do it, but not a majority.
And with that, so what you could do is there's similar localities that have it where within 2 years of you getting appointed, you need to complete like the certified planning commissioner training or something similar to the BZA training or something like that, that do have state trainings. and those normally cost about $500 a person, maybe a
Right.
little less if you have to send 2 or 3 people. So at $1,500, we would be able to send 3 planning commissioners, and then the next year send another 3. So effectively, you could almost get the entire planning commission that training. And I would say we probably look similar with the BZA, something around 1,000 to 1,500. But that would be something that council's going to need to address by making that training a mandate, because as you all know, it's not the easiest to fill those boards and commissions.
Right.
So then requiring them to do certain training on top of that, you weigh
I
the
don't
pros
think
and
there's a
cons.
way around it with BZA.
And like I said, they are legislative bodies, but that's just something that the council, you guys need to kind of weigh the pros and cons of that. Is it more important to have the educated body, or is it more important to have the full boards?
I'd rather have the educated body.
Educated body.
And the question is, do we need to reach out to some of these folks and have a conversation with them?
Yes,
Yeah, okay, I'll get with you later.
thank you.
As the county BZA rep, thank you. We're not training you for the county, though, you know that.
No, they already paid for that.
Okay, cool, just checking, just wanted to make sure, close.
Okay, so does that cover everything with the,
Well, I just want to say ARB is at 2,000 for training. Do you want to reduce that to match the others? Because BZA is at 500 for convention and education.
BZA was just 3 people.
I would actually flip-flop ARB and planning.
The only other thing with that, convention and education, we have 1,500, but we do not have corresponding mileage and meals and lodging. Can we use those to match those of the PC?
So the reason we don't have that is because there is no, like I think I've talked to you about it before, there is no state mandated training, so there is no place that I have found that you can go to Richmond for a 2-day course, and then you do 10 weeks at home, then you go back for a 2-day course. Normally, when we're talking about ARB training, it's bringing in the town attorney and articulating what the ARB does and reviews, and then what their purview is. So if you can find trainings somewhere, whether it's a webinar or whether it's in the state somewhere, I'd be more than happy to do it. But since it's not a state mandate, it's kind of dictated by what the locality does. I mean, I was just in Smithfield, and they've got their historical stuff that's very different than what ours is. So it's kind of hard to do like statewide training, where Planning Commission and BZA, there's state statutes that dictate how they do things and how they're appointed, and that's not how the ARB is. So that's why we really, if you can find training, I'd be more than happy to do it. But if there's no outside training, I don't know why we would add meals and travel.
That being said, Marchant, would you be averse to taking 1,000 out of their convention and education and throwing it at the PC, and taking the remaining 1,000 and throwing it at the BZA? Since I think it's unlikely that we're going to get ARB training for $2,000.
ARB only has 500 though, right?
No, they have
About
2,000.
$2,000.
BZA, sorry.
There are trainings, and you have some of the what do you call it, Main Street and other sorts of things that may fall under some of that, ARB training, but you and I can talk offline about that. But you're suggesting if we have training by Martin, that wouldn't fall under legal fees, that would just fall under, you would.
No, I mean,
It'd be under the regular legal fee.
yeah, it would just
Okay.
be under regular legal fees. It would just, I would try and do like my weekly meeting right before the meeting or something like that. So I'd make it work so it's not
Okay,
gonna
so you want
cost.
to drop?
I want to drop that to 0, increase convention and education for the PC to 2,500, and increase the convention and education for the BZA to 1,500.
You just zeroed me out.
Yes.
No. Give me $500 in case we
Give
find
him 5.
something.
Give them 5.
We do need,
Okay.
we do need some training, if I can.
Yes.
Chris has now
Okay.
publicly challenged me to find.
Then I would suggest this.
Do the training
Then I would,
in-house.
then I would suggest this.
One of the two.
Change,
For ARB.
change planning commission to 2,000,
BZA.
ARB to 500, and BZA to 1,500, right?
As much visibility and critique that the ARB gets, we should really be, I'm teasing you.
So if we increase planning by 500, that takes it to 2,000. We decrease ARB to 500,
That gives you 1,500.
that's 1,500. You take the extra 1,000
It's already done up there.
and dump it into the BZA, which increases them to 1,500.
And then if it, which it is very similar to planning commission, so it's around $500
Yeah.
for training. So same thing, within about 2 to 3 years, we should be able to have everybody.
Almost
trained.
got the whole 2,000.
Right, almost.
Help me help you. Page 6.
Nice page. Let's get it moving.
All right, and then all of this stuff is Roberto's. gonna-
Nothing we can do anything about.
Yeah.
Well,
these
yeah,
are-
and that
These are
too.
debt service obligations that we're paying down.
Right.
And from my understanding, we should be done this fiscal year with the pedestrian Jefferson project, so we're removing that from the expenditures for next budget. We are maintaining the blight mitigation, 40,000 there. And then we have the capital improvement funds expense.
So I have a question about the blight mitigation.
Yes.
We really haven't used much of that money at all. I mean, okay, Emily, she's grabbing for the mic. No,
I'll
go
miss you
ahead.
on that, but I'll let her talk.
Use it as a threat.
I'm sorry.
Right, so,
We burned 50%, haven't we?
So, in previous years, we had it at, I believe, 50,000. One of the things, so when we put out advertisements, the process, you put out an advertisement in the local paper saying you're about to do this action, you send them a letter at the same time. If they do not respond within 30 days of the advertisement or 2 weeks of the letter, whatever's the latter date, then you can go forward with a plan that you've set forward, you've gotten it approved by the council, and you can spend money to do it. Then you spend some legal money and you put liens on the property that you may never see again. So we left that there in the case that we blight a property and then we're very proactive and we go after it and we say, we have to board this up, we have to get the paint peeling taken care of, we have to replace a roof, we have to secure it. So we left that amount of money there because we do know that we have those properties. We haven't had to use it yet, so I don't know what risk factor you guys would like to take going forward.
right, so part of it is you want to make sure you have teeth, and
Right.
this shows you have teeth,
Right.
more or less. And do we anticipate anything in the next year? If we do, then fine.
I'm currently working with a property owner who is telling me that they're making progress and they're moving forward.
Glacially,
I
yeah.
have not seen that happen, but we have everything taken care of on our end that we can go after and do blight mitigation. It has been noticed, it has been sent. It's now the ball's in our court when we're ready.
Okay,
And that's also, you want enough funds to do what's necessary, just like Emily said. So if the plan is to secure that structure to prevent people from being able to get into it or children
Right.
from potentially hurting themselves, you want to make sure that if it takes fencing in the property or closing it up, that you want to make sure that we can do everything necessary to make that property safe. And just like she said, once you put the lien on the property, it may not happen for a couple of years till you see it again. So that's one of those things where you do want to have,
but the bottom line is you anticipate using some, if not all of those funds.
there is a high probability that that
Yeah.
could happen.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Just, I think we would need to know from you when you need us to make a decision to pull the trigger. So when you felt like you've exhausted all your options, then I guess we'll have to have an item presented to us.
Our most recent conversation with that property owner wasn't too long ago, so I'm trying to give time for supplies to be ordered, a contractor to do the work. That doesn't happen here in the next, 2 weeks. I'll talk to the town manager and we'll come to you guys.
Okay.
And there has been some movement on the property, so that's the other thing, is that it's not just spoken word and no action has been taken. Certain things have been done to correct some of the problems that Emily has spoken about. So that's, as they continue to work, a little bit more time is afforded. However, just like Emily said, we're ready to go. We've done everything necessary, so.
I'm just watching more siding fall off.
Okay, fine, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay. The final line item is the capital improvement. That's where we would use for capital improvement funds, expenditures. Following that, well, that's the regular budget, the operational budget. With some of the changes made, you can see right now, we're actually in the positive of 23,570 from the, correct. Below, though, I do want to make a note that below, that's the operational budget, then this is the CARES Act budget. As you all are aware, they extended the timeline as how long we can use the money, so we are obviously going to carry what we have left over and keeping it, tracking it separately from
And
the operational budget.
that's December 31st of this year.
Yes,
Correct.
You know, I agree with Bob. At the last meeting, I actually do think we should have ARP in here as well,
and just like,
As a placeholder.
as a placeholder. Because we know eventually we're going to get that money. I mean, it's due here, what, in May?
June.
The first tranche?
June 19th, pending the court case.
And that's something that, I mean, we could put it in the budget now and then allocate it, or we wait until we actually get the money and then, because the other thing that I do have some reservation on, and I'll be honest with you, is that we do not know what the restrictions are. So like I did with the CARES Act, we were able to kind of come up with a plan. These are the items that we want to be able to address with the CARES Act. So then when you guys accepted the funds, you also authorized me to be able to spend it as we discussed. That's something that I do think was helpful, and it was transparent, where if we put it in the budget and put expenses, I don't want people thinking that, you know, I've got free reign to spend it as long as it's within the plan, but it's up to you guys.
But if we put it in, we don't have to do a public announcement to put it in later,
Yeah.
because we already know how much we're getting. That's
We have an
known.
approximation.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, exactly, too. Everything that we have seen, it has been guesstimation and estimates from representatives. So,
Here's why I would suggest putting it in. One, I don't think the court case is going to last very long. This is a legislative action.
Right.
Congress isn't going to let this thing sit. The courts are going to be under pressure because it's got a time limitation on it. And I suspect that the challenge is actually a little bit specious. I'm not even sure it's going to, they're going to find that the people have standing to pursue it. But I think we have to put it in there as a placeholder with an allocation of half, with an appropriation of half, but no allocations. And we just leave the expenditure lines TBD. But that way the money is there, and what we have to do to actually make use of it when indeed it arrives will be a whole lot easier for us.
the other thing is just if we also get those funds in June, that'll be this fiscal year as well.
We won't appropriate them until after July 1.
Okay, so basically we'll just wait until
We'll
July
wait
1.
until July 1 and appropriate them in
actually
July.
Accept them.
Because if you appropriate them on June 19th, that just creates a big mess. Because then you got to do a budget amendment, and then you got to transfer. I mean, yeah. Besides, I don't think it's going to be here on June 19th. I think it's going to be here sometime in late July.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we receive it in June, we do have to accept the funds this fiscal year.
For example.
The town has to accept the funds, but the town doesn't have to appropriate them.
But the other thing that I'm saying, though, is so if we put the revenue for this fiscal year, what I'm saying is if we receive it this June, that's this fiscal year. If we were to receive it July of 2022, that's actually a different fiscal year that would not even count this fiscal year we're discussing. So that's why I'm just saying, with everything we got going on in the months, and it's only a couple days window, it might be more advantageous not to put this in here because there's too much in the air with it only being an 11-day window of, is it going to be the fiscal year we're in right now, or is it gonna be in the fiscal year we're talking about?
It's gonna be in the fiscal year we're talking about.
Well, so if we
I
get
think
it,
that's a safe assumption. Trying to fit it in an 11-day window to put it in this year's budget, no, and it's not, that's not worth the trouble.
but we don't have an option if we get the funds in June, is what I'm saying, so we have to accept the money.
To speak to that, if we were to receive it in June, for audit reasons, we need to appropriate it in June when the funds are received, because audit-wise, that's how they will look, they want to track it. So if we do receive it in June, we would have to appropriate it in June, similar to CARES Act. Well, during the audit, the reason why they were expecting to see CARES Act, but once we showed them the letter of when we actually received and everything, why we didn't have any funds showing in fiscal year.
Given the
2020.
court case and the fact that this is gonna have to be proctored by the state first, if I had to guess when we're actually gonna get it, I'm guessing we're getting it post July 1. I don't think they're gonna fit it in that 11-day window. And if they don't, if they get it to us in June, well, then we just do a stinking budget amendment and carry it over and change the, and yeah.
Ultimately, it is the council's decision, but I'm kind of with Chris on this, that I would rather have a public hearing specifically for that if we needed to, if we received it, once we receive it in July, once the money's in hand. To do it now, we could, but for me, I would prefer to just wait till we actually have the funds to actually do the appropriation and have it there.
It allows us to also kind of help articulate what the ARP is, why we got the funds, what the purpose is. It's not just, this is how we plan on spending it, so it also helps educate the community as to like what we're doing with it. So that's, I understand you're saying, why put off tomorrow what we can do today, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it is in federal court, it may or may not be fast. We just don't know, so I think we should just wait, and then whatever happens, we'll do what we have to do. But, I mean, it's the same thing if we put it in here, and then we got to go back and change it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna die on this hill, so, I mean, that's fine.
I may have a mental block here. I'm not sure, but we're getting the money in the next budget anyway.
That's not, if we were to get it June.
We're not going to get it all. We're only
Actually,
getting.
no, we would get the
It's
way
two
it's
tranches.
scheduled is 2 tranches.
Right.
One tranche is supposedly June 19th, and the other tranche is no earlier than June 19th of next year.
So what that
So
means,
any way you look at it, we're probably,
what that means is if we get it in June 19th of 2021, that would be in FY 2021, which is the one we're currently in, not the
Correct.
one we're talking about.
Yes, I understand that.
And then no earlier than June 19th. So if it were to take 11 more days, then that would kick us to FY 2023, which would totally skip this budget. So that's what I'm saying. There's no reason for us to put it in this until we have an actual date of when we're going to receive the funds.
But we're still
but
going
at
to
the end of the day,
carry
we're
over.
gonna get that amount of money
One
at
tranche.
some point in time.
We're going, yeah, we're going to get it, and it's going to carry over anyway
Yeah, I
to
mean,
next year.
any way you look at it, there's gonna be that amount of money at some point in time during the next fiscal year.
Absolutely.
Whether it's from tranche 1 or tranche 2.
All right, we'll have another discussion on Thursday.
In council, how do you guys feel?
Bob already said it's not a mountain he's gonna die on, so let's just wait.
What's the downside
What's the
to
down-
not?
Yeah,
There's
big
no
deal.
real,
let's just wait.
there's no real Benny or con
We
in either
decided to
one.
wait. Based on the counsel of our town manager and our treasurer.
Okay,
Proceed.
Are we done?
No, we gotta go back up to the top.
Back to
Good.
revenues.
Down to revenue.
I know Joe wants to go back to
we are doing revenue?
Oh, or did you want to go to the top of expense?
No, we need to go back to revenue.
No, what I wanted to do was to
Oh.
go back and talk about, Chris, talk about,
Okay, I'll cover on the second one. I'll cover on the second one.
where is it? The admin. We've got to increase that 12-11-001.
How much?
I don't know, and that's the question. I think we should put a placeholder in for up to 20,000, and then we'll make the adjustment back.
Where are you, Joe?
I'm at the administration, town council, town admin, 12,110, salaries, wages, regular,
So you want to go to 33730?
33730. And the reason why is we're doing a performance review at our next work session. We've talked about, at the last meeting, the town manager is making less than 2 of his direct reports. We need to get that squared away, I believe. I mean, it's up to the council, but I think we need to rectify that equity issue. And I think one of the things we need, Chris, is some kind of an assessment of, not you, Chris, the other Chris Kuhn, some comparison, peer-based review of town managers in municipalities similar to Haymarket.
So there's a couple that have been sent to council throughout y'all's tenure. One was Stevens City, I believe, and another one was Strasburg. And then there was also a study we participated with Round Hill. So I think one of them actually was not a very good one, and it was several years ago, but I can at least send 2 of those that were recently done by 2 localities within driving distance.
Yes, sir. No. Just say yes, sir.
But for purposes of this exercise, you just want to change it to 33730, correct?
Right. For
Yeah,
now.
that's good for the salaries. Does that affect FICA and everything
Yes.
else? Do we have enough buffer in there for that, or do we got to raise those too?
Well, that's the beauty about the work session, that we'll be able to work this and I can come back with the additional costs, VRS, and FICA. But if that's the number you guys want to go with, you additional 20, I'll put that
So
there.
we'll
and then
assume that that's going to take up at least the roughly 3570 that's left that we saved. So we're at break even, once you factor in these changes. Okay.
Okay, Marshawn, do you have another item
Just
too?
to follow up real quick, going back to Community Development Planning Commission, consultants comp plan, $15,000. We're still doing that in-house, or what's the $15,000 going to do?
We left it as a placeholder so that when the time comes, if we need to hire a consultant to help us with the final items on the comp plan, or running the study, so forth and so on.
Okay. Because I may want to come back with a proposal for our design guidelines, but I'll come back.
As far as I'm concerned, you can take the $15,000 and use it for your design guidelines.
No, or split the baby. Anyway.
You know how
Also
much
too-
I like consultants.
No, there's a utility in us doing it in-house, and there's some utility having other folks. Okay. Capital, the 95,000, I assume,
What number are you?
I'm sorry, on the last page, 94,108, capital improvement fund expenses. We're assuming this is gonna go up when the CIP comes back after the planning commission?
Perhaps.
Okay. I just feel like with all that's going on right now, if we can,
It's a placeholder for the time.
we gotta put more, we gotta put more money into
Yeah.
capital.
You also
Right.
have reserves
So,
that you can
this,
dip
so,
into.
so that's one thing I wanted to point out. I'm sure Bob notices, with this budget that we prepared, we're not taking consideration carryover surplus or pulling money from reserves. This is a budget that's strictly working off operational revenues.
Yeah.
Okay,
So there is that, and you still have
we can
those
talk about
options.
that later,
To
okay.
further explain it, the 95,000 is essentially seed money for CIP,
Okay.
where your big ticket items are going to be covered either out of whatever carryover balance there is from a surplus or out of your reserves that are earmarked for CIP. So that's not all of the money we've got for capital improvement. It's just the additional money out of this budget that we're sinking into capital improvement,
Okay, I
if
mean-
that makes sense.
But I would really like us, once we get the CIP back, to think hard, if we have to nominally raise the rate to try to capture some of these pending projects. I'm not talking about the turn lane projects, but I just want us to
I
start
don't think
thinking
we're going to
about
have to. I think we're pretty good.
it. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay.
Preliminarily, what we've seen, I think, you agree?
Okay.
I think we're okay.
So
Bust
then,
through the easy part now,
yep.
right?
So now this is where we get to with the revenue. This is something where we also need to advertise for the tax rates. So Roberto and I would like to move forward with advertising. We have to advertise at the highest rate. And with that being said, I think if we advertise a real estate tax rate at the .129, we can always go lower if that is the option of council and you guys wish to do so. And then everything else would remain the same, to include transient occupancy, meals tax, and everything else.
And that's the reduced rate, correct?
Yes, the .129 is the reduced rate. It's not only equalized, it's actually reduced.
But is it still an effective tax increase?
No.
No,
It's not.
that's where I said it.
Even in smoothing out?
So equalizing, you take the average, and that, we took it a step below that.
But
There will be some properties that do see an increase, but that's because their houses have increased so much in value.
Well, then that's an effective tax increase.
But if we can,
It's still-
it's not, if
for
it's
those
for
folks.
It's
9.
not across the board, because you gotta
I
remember the
understand
commercial,
that, but
the
it's
commercial
still-
properties dropped. So some people will see a couple of dollar increase. A lot of people will not. They'll actually see it'll either come out even or it'll be a slight decrease. But there's not really much we can do about that, given how much some of the commercial properties dropped. But at a 9% decrease, if we establish this as the ceiling, we can always come back and lower it some more.
I understand.
So this is our essentially, for lack of a better term, this is, you might disagree on this, but this is probably an equalized rate, an equalized actual tax rate, which where your payments are equalized,
For
if not reduced a little bit.
For the majority.
For the majority, there's always going to be the outlier.
Exactly. Well, that's my middle name.
Equalized and reduced.
Well,
See,
so your charge, when you came to us with it, it was just the assumption that, hey, we'll need to start at the equalized tax rate, right?
So,
No, that's,
no. So when I worked on this budget, considering what's going on with the county,
Okay.
considering what, how the assessments are going up and what's going on with the town, for the amount of services, there are some services that we do have to, maintain. The trash service, that's one of the biggest things that the residents are paying for. Christy and I had discussed it, and definitely with what's going on with the county and the huge increase everyone will see. We wanted to do our part and kind of try to equalize it, but yet still be able to meet the things that the town needs to, provide to their residents. So the original right now flat rate, if we kept it at 1.36, let me show you a stat real quick.
No, I'm not critiquing that, my experience has been sort of, as I said, the three options. Do we want to advertise it so they can only go down? Do we not want to have a little bit higher in case our CIP comes back at a higher
You're
rate?
not going to generate enough income to fund anything on the CIP.
so if we were to keep it the same, it's only a couple $1,000s.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
just for a visual, if you look up there, I did a quick breakdown, what it would be if we kept it at the same. So with the assessments that we got from the county, if we kept our current rate, we'd be collecting $392,083.24.
So it'd be about $19,000 increase.
Correct. If we were to go down to the equalized rate, which is .130, it's $374,785, which is closest to what we had budgeted currently. We went with a little bit lower, .129. It comes down to $37,902. If we lower it to .128, you're really talking about $2,000 difference less. With that being said, as much as we try to, unless we were to go to every individual property, yes, we're trying to do our best to equalize it to help out, but there will be some properties that will, they assess a lot newer, or they've done additions that.
They saw a 20% increase,
What's the
and we're not going
increase?
to be able to drop the rate 20%.
and the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Understood. I guess I'm still in the mindset that, let's get it through our CIP. We need to look down the line and start, even if we have to do out and get a loan, if we have to, you know.
So we also have a very, very healthy reserve.
Okay,
Just
well, I don't
as
have that number in front of me, so I'll wait for the
There's
end of the
one-
CIP, but what's that?
1.2 or 1.9 million.
Right.
With access to quite a bit of that. That Michael's even said a healthy reserve for us, I think, would be between like 300,000 and 500,000.
And we've also got some increasing revenue streams
Well-
of a different color.
And we have the monies that are coming in that we can dump in. I just think we need to think big. With everything that's coming, we need to start thinking big. That's all I have to say.
I agree, but I feel that at this time, I feel like the best thing to do too is to try to alleviate some of the increases to the residents, you know?
Well, I don't disagree.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
definitely we're going.
Please
through-
don't take this as a critique or a
No,
criticism.
so definitely going through the scenarios on the budget, we hope to touch where, you know, what other sources we can use.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation.
Are you seeking anything from us to advertise at .129?
Yes. So if you guys allow us, then we can advertise and have it, the public hearing for the May town council meeting. We'd have the public hearing on the tax rates, and then that would also set the tax rates, so then we can, if we need to do any fine tuning, because as we continue to get more meals tax, cigarette tax, things like that, we can make sure the trends are accurate. And if they are not, then we may have to come back and look at some of the expenses, which Roberto and I would do first and kind of give you guys some options that way. But if you guys are okay with us advertising the .129 and everything else remaining the same, we will move forward with advertising.
I guess the question is if there is anyone on council who prefers equalizing at .130. No, I guess that's your answer, Mr. Mayor.
Without objection,
Yeah, something like $2,000.
publish away.
So we will take care of that.
Just so you guys are aware, I'm sure you are, but once we set this, once we do a public notice at .129, we cannot go any higher. So,
That's why I asked anyone for 130.
That was my earlier point, so.
Unless you republish.
See, no one answered at 1.130.
Yeah.
You guys did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next line items?
No, I mean, that's what, so we've got the tax rates. If you guys want to go through each of the different revenue individually, we can, but a lot of this has to do with what we get from the state, what we get from the businesses, what we get for zoning, what we get for tenants, so different things like that. These are not really, I mean, opinion-wise, you guys may have different opinions, but I think we should probably use more informational-based. So as we get trends, that's where this revenue could change.
I'm not buying the business license tax or the cigarette tax.
Like I said, that's where we'll let the trends decide, and I do think that they will probably need
I
to be
think
edited.
they're both, I think one's unrealistically low and I think one's unrealistically high.
So
you
you think
talking
the
about
business tax is low?
Like I said, business license we'll have by the end of the month, so we'll be able to figure out what the trend is for that, and then with cigarette tax, we'll also get an extra month of
Cigarette tax
details.
needs to come down to
40,
I've got a number here somewhere.
140. We talked about that at the last meeting.
Did I?
$9,000 change. Is that right?
Yeah, I think 14,000 needs to come off to one, yeah, you're right.
What's your
Needs to
your
come down to
reasoning?
135.
Oh, really?
What's your reasoning for that, Bob?
If you look at the cigarette tax revenues to date, they're not trending towards that. And if what the cigarette industry and the pundits are stating, this year's cigarette tax revenues are artificially inflated by COVID. Because people, believe it or not, because people are not going to work and they're working from home and they're under more stress, they're smoking more than they otherwise would. And they don't expect that to last long term. I also suspect that once the county puts in their cigarette tax, and it's going to be lower than ours, it's going to drive even more people out. The way it's trending right now, I think we'd be best at leaving it at 135. But I think B-poll needs to go up significantly.
Let's talk about B-Pol for a second.
Like I said, we're supposed to get the business license by April 31st,
Right.
30th, I'm sorry.
All right, so I've got the older version. And how much have you gotten already? 110,000 on business license tax? That's the actual?
So that was as of 4/9 on Friday. I know I have received a few more today, so I have to get those in there.
So the question is, you have a sense of the big numbers that are outstanding? I mean, having done this all the time?
And they're still coming in, so that's.
Well, I get that, but I mean, for
Cer-
Roberto,
Certain businesses, believe it or not, have actually have a better year than last year. And others have, depending on what their business is, have taken a hit, but not significant as I thought it would.
and so our expectation is that by the end of this month, we'll have a better accounting of what that number is. And do we know what percentage of folks are in arrears typically every year? Do we have a sense of that would end up with a penalty? Or is that usually small?
That is usually small,
Okay.
yeah.
If everybody wants to make me shut up, here's what I would suggest. Increase the B poll to 168,376 and drop the cigarette tax to 135 even, and that sets us at 0. It's a wash.
It's a wash.
Between both of them?
So basically, you're moving the increase of
I'm moving
14,000 just up to business license.
Yeah, I'm taking the 14,000 out of cigarette and putting it in B poll.
Well, here's the thing, so if you look at the business license tax in 19 and then 20, I mean, go back to 18, I mean, everything has been increasing. Now, of course, COVID threw things
Out
off.
of whack.
And that's where we really would like to wait until we have the majority of those business licenses before we make that final determination, which it's going to happen here in the next 15, 18 days.
So I guess my question gets to what businesses, you know, the real contributors to this tax, what businesses have left, what businesses are still here, and, you know, what businesses have continued to do well, and others who are hit very hard by COVID. Do we have a sense of that?
So the smaller businesses, I can tell you that probably no more than 5 have closed within the past year, no more than 5. But we are getting new businesses coming in. 3 new ones, yes. One of them, in fact, as we know, Parandis, that just adds to our meals tax. So that is also taken into account when we move up to that percentage. The bigger businesses have stayed consistent, with the exception of one, the corner sheets. Obviously, they took a hit, but not
As bad.
as bad as I thought
Yeah.
they would.
And then we're also talking maybe an Aldi this year, perhaps?
Correct. Which
Do you think in this budget year, 2020? Oh, you don't see anything?
this next,
Yes, the
we're
next one,
talking-
July 1, that one.
July 1. Yeah, that's
The
what
one
I'm
we're
talking
doing
about.
right now.
Yeah, that's the one we're doing right now. That's my point. So we do have some other businesses coming in, which would buttress or support Bob's argument that we should go a little bit higher, too. No?
I just think it's a little more realistic to move that 14 up and down, and it just,
Yeah.
And Roberto's already taken.
I already did that, and then, so we'll see how it goes, and hopefully by the next meeting too, I'll have more data for you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have concerns, Marshawn?
The only comment I would have is on the 313005 letter planning permits. I mentioned this last time. If we have the ability under the next year to look at fees, that may go up or down, but that doesn't affect this. This should stay the same, but we probably need to revisit our fee schedule.
Mm.
I don't want people out there saying, don't raise my permit fees. I'm not necessarily saying that, but we probably need to look at, I think some were underpriced, and maybe others were overpriced, but that'll play out later. Thank you.
Anybody else on the income? I think that's it to start off with.
The next one is the fines. This is, goes back to the clerk, coming from Prince William Clerk Court, for fines for the officers. This one, I'm not sure how it's gonna turn out, just because as you can see over here, they're definitely below what the expected is, but that is definitely due to what the restrictions with COVID.
I still philosophically have a problem with listing fines as revenue, because that lends the impression that you've got officers out there generating revenue. It's a philosophical issue I've had with it from day
So then,
one.
do you want to zero it out, and then when we get it, then we'll allocate it each quarter? Or-
I'd rather do it that way than set what appears to be a bar or a quota.
So then what expense line item are we
I
going to
know,
take out?
I know, it's too late now.
Okay.
I mean, you want me to find 60 grand, I'll find 60 grand.
I mean, because that's the whole thing. Then it's just, then when you're out, bringing it in and then allocating it out, there's certain things that you would only be able to do quarterly. So that's
Well,
the other thing.
I also don't agree with putting it at 60, but, well, I see the rationale for it, but fine. But that sends a bad message too, but, we're doing selective enforcement to collect revenue.
We're doing
But, I mean,
selective-
again, not a hill I'm gonna die on.
And like I said, the selective enforcement is more for, just like the mother that came in and complained about not being able to cross the
Yeah, I
pedestrian
get it.
crosswalks, and there's some people that deserve to get tickets because they're not letting a mother with a stroller cross the street in town. So,
I just have an issue with the message it sends, but that's okay.
It seems like that number's all over the map too,
Yeah.
historically,
Well,
right? I mean, look at 18 was 68,000, then at 50%, right? Cut in
this
half.
is an issue,
this
we
is,
still, we need to address this
yes,
with the court.
I need to get in contact with the towns to get a unified front for all of the towns to go to the county and basically have them allocated. We've discussed this a couple times, that I just need to get with them and do it.
Roberto, you were going to say something?
Well, one thing that did happen back in FY 2018-19, they double paid us. They double paid us in the 18, which they should have paid in 19. So they opted to just leave it, but then that meant that we didn't receive funds. They were going against what they considered their credit to the town.
They are just absolutely incompetent when it comes to accounting. It's stunning.
Well, that answers that. Okay, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Okay. Continue on.
Okay, the next line item is, this is money from interest from the banks. To address the VML one specifically, I set up a meeting for Chris and I to meet with Steve Mulroy, a representative for our account at the VML Investment Group. After that discussion, it was made, the best decision to leave the money, our town's money in with them, probably makes the most sense, just because they have the ability, they have a team, they're constantly, daily, reviewing our accounts, reviewing where the best investment for a return on our money could be, versus if we were to try to manage it on our own by having, to a local branch, where we would also have to deal with the fact that we'd have to wait for the account to mature before we can do anything with it, versus VML, they have the capability to daily make those moves and not have to wait for it to mature. Unfortunately, though, how low interest our rates are, this year we are seeing the effects of it. As you can see, prior years, it was very healthy, it was doing really well. So we addressed it by removing 8,500 on each line item. This is something we could address later on if the rates do go up. Sometime next year, we can look at to, appropriating the additional funds, revenues, and expenditure lines.
Your only other option is to give Joe and me the money and let us play day trader.
You want to go to prison?
I can also go to MGM and put it on black if you want to.
That's one way to do it.
The next section, does anyone have questions on that part? Okay. The next section is, these are basically our town leases. I have gone ahead and the increases you see are increases for the escalation that's automatically built into each lease. For now, I believe everyone is on a lease for at least a year or two. One. There is one that we have to address, that is the B&B Security. As of right now, they're on a monthly, but I believe we'll probably be addressing that soon with them. One thing I want to point in fact, Washington Realty, just to remind everyone that they had 2 months abatement. That's why their number seems low. But they renewed their contract for 5 years? 10 years. Apologies. Haymarket Coffee's here. This is an estimate on just going off of weekends. But as we know, they have started to utilize the space more often. So this is something maybe we could look at. We'll have a discussion with them as well. But this number is just to have a number there that when they first started, it was only a weekend basis.
So with the escalation, it would also increase from the 50 a day to 52.50 a day. So this is just based on 104 days out of the year. So if they continue 7 days a week, that 52.50, it would be substantially more than 54.60. I think it's actually closer to 18,000, if I'm not mistaken.
The next section is just us removing the Laney details, the VDOT detail. We will no longer have those revenue sources coming in next year.
What?
Wait till you get further down the page.
The town events, this is where we are just saying that we're anticipating to receive 20,000. We have carried the 19,028.57 is actually money from sponsors that we were able to carry out. We have a few sponsors that Emily could address if you wanted to, but basically they felt that they wanted to keep the money, sponsor the town, and hopefully if and when we are able to do events again, they will be the first ones to participate in our town events. We're also keeping track of the town ornaments, something we don't budget because we don't really know how they will do, but we do keep track of them. These are just some items of reimbursements, vehicles. Last year we had accidents, reimbursements from insurance. Here's some grants in Commonwealth revenues. The law enforcement, the 599 law enforcement, I believe is actually going to increase a bit in the coming year. Fortunately, I was not able to have that discussion with Chief Lance for his resignation, but I can see if Sergeant Davis can get that paperwork to see how much more. I don't remember it being too much more, but it was something that would definitely be.
It's only a percentage point or
Right,
two, as I
right.
recall.
There's like 3 or 5, but I just want to make sure on that number. Communications tax, as you can see, try to lower more on kind of where the trends is at are going. Do have the fire department here that we have received, just haven't waiting on what we're going to do with that. Personal property tax reimbursement. This is something that the county collects and deposits to us. They collect the property tax for town residents and give us.
No, that's actually the state's. That's the state share.
Okay.
Under the old get rid of the car tax thing. That's a subsidy from the state for half of our tax.
Okay. The next line item that I also removed was the pedestrian improvement grant, because once we're done with the project this fiscal year, that grant is completed. The new line item, 60,500, is for the DMV Select Commission. That is for the project here. The DMV safety grant, as you are aware,
I'm sorry, that's your projected income next year?
Yes.
yes.
6,500?
No, 60,000.
60,000.
60,500.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It's averaging about $5,000 a month.
All right, go ahead.
The following section is a DMV safety grant. As we all know, we are not eligible for it, so we went ahead and removed it on the revenue side as well as the expenditure side.
Should you add a note here for future councils to know what these things are?
What,
The
revisit in
reasons,
2025?
Yeah,
So-
just
so-
suspended, just if you just add the word suspended.
So as of right now, just so that we're absolutely clear, the DMV grant has only been suspended for FY 2021 until further notice, and our application for FY 2022 has also been placed on hold. So as of right now, that is all the information we have. We officially have not gotten any paperwork or documentation stating anything to a disbarment of 3 years or anything like that. So as of right now,
So that's what I'm saying, if you could just put exactly what you just said.
but it very well next week could change. So that's where, we can put a note on there.
So until it changes, put suspended there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The final line item is the carryover surplus from this year that we carried over for this current budget. Of course, I removed it, trying to work with, create a budget that didn't need carryover surplus or CIP funds, just because I wasn't sure how this council wanted to move forward with that. But we did place, like I said, that placeholder 95,000 as a starting point going forward for you guys. Be right over here. But as of right now, these two line items have a zero amount, the reserves or the carryover.
We should always use the reserve money by way of an amendment anyway.
I think it goes without saying, I don't think any of us anticipated we would have this sort of year in the middle of COVID, so lucky.
Any questions on our rollout? Okay, we're good.
Everyone?
Bob, Joseph.
I got a motion.
It's their work, not ours.
You guys did good. Staff, you guys did great.
I guess I could need a motion here, guys.
Was Badger, why, it's not a meeting.
It's not a meeting, so I don't have to adjourn it? Oh, okay. Yes, we do.
Oh, fine, move to adjourn.
Adjourn.
So,
Wait.
before we move forward,
I withdraw my motion.
I just want to make sure, with a few things we're going to change, I'll do the calculations for the additional town admin.
Yeah, you should have somewhere around $3,500 to play with that left at the bottom line.
Correct. And then as far as the carryover, anything, is that something you guys, I guess we'll wait for the CIP plan, and then we'll go forward with what we want to do with that. Okay.
And so-
One thing, does any council member have any views of going lower than .129 that would give Roberta more information to do more research to show us at the next meeting?
I think that discussion needs to be delayed until we get some more revenue numbers.
Because I would hate for you to be thinking, hey, we should go .125, but then next meeting he doesn't
the
have
public-
a proposal.
Yeah, for public, we need it now, right?
No, so you can
No.
always go lower.
You can always go
Oh,
lower.
Lord, yes, I understand, but what I'm saying is,
Or you want to increase the public announcement to 130?
no, I didn't want to increase it to 130.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to get any feedback, so because he was looking for a directive to advertise at 129.
We're gonna have one more work session before we publish the budget, right?
Well, so
But our public,
the public hearing will be at the May council meeting, town council meeting, that
For
first
the
week.
rate. For the
Yes, on
rate.
the rate, and then we'll have one more
Thank you.
in May, probably the second Monday, that Monday after, to finalize the budget so that we can advertise for that June meeting.
Budget, get it done by June, yeah. So
Yes.
that we'll have one more of these sessions to work through all of that and change, at which
Wanna
point
do
we
the
can
rate
drop it
and-
right.
the budget at the
and
same time?
Councilman Morris, the other good thing is that's when we'll have more business license information, meals tax information, so if there's other increases elsewhere, then that may allow us to drop the real estate tax.
So what was the
want to
date?
do rate and budget at the same time? Is
Say that
what
again,
we're
I'm
saying?
sorry.
We're going to advertise rate and budget at the same time?
No,
Yeah.
so we're advertising the rate.
Yes, so, what Councilman Morris is saying is, do we want to advertise a rate at 130, even though we
No,
want to accept?
no, I think we've all agreed at
Okay.
129.
Okay, I just thought,
No, it's as long as we get as long as we get the rate advertised.
Correct.
Then we get that out of the way. We don't have to adopt it, we just have to advertise it. And then we can go back at a later date.
On the top.
And if we decide to drop it a couple points,
We now have a baseline to deal. You have your CLE to deal with. Now we can work through the rest of the budget when we get the rest of the information, publish the budget, and then you adopt the rate and the budget the same night.
Right.
I'm just saying, just for Roberto to be prepared, is there anyone thinking of .125?
There's
So he
always
could give
thinking
us an
about it.
idea what it would look like, or you can do it on the fly.
so he's already done it where he's kind of broken
Punch a number
down
in.
what the numbers are, so if we,
So
yeah, pull that.
it's right here.
So see, he's got it down, and he can extrapolate that and continue to go down, so that if we come to realize we have a $23,000 surplus, we could go and change the rate. So,
okay,
so
okay.
it's not, he will be able to do it relatively quickly.
Okay.
So by the time we have that next budget meeting, that second Monday in May, if everybody's okay with it.
I
Yeah,
won't be here.
because then it would just be to where you guys would want to cut, or where
Right.
you guys would want to get more.
Or what
reserves
revenues are
carry over.
greater to offset it, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
We'll talk, but I won't be here.
So the question is, when is that next budget meeting?
So I said the second Monday in May, if it's okay with you guys, because this is the second Monday in April, so, because we do have to advertise it, this is the funky, no more than 5 days, no less
No
than
less than
21
21.
to advertising, so we really, so either it's got to be the first week in May.
I think the
Say that again?
second Monday was May 10th, was that correct?
Mother's, yeah, the day after Mother's Day, I think.
My birthday.
I thought the rate had to be budgeted twice, not the
There's-
budget itself.
There is one thing with the budget, I have to double check
Oh,
it.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna miss that.
Two separate requirements, one's for the budget and one's for the rate.
The work session?
Whichever one. So if we do it in the second week, we're
I'm
safe
leaving
on
the
all
30th, So I'll
accounts.
be here for that.
So we could either do it
I
the
just won't be
first
here for
week
the
of May, so Tuesday through Friday, or we could do that second Monday again.
Second Monday works for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
the 10th is good.
And if Chris isn't here, the meeting will be shorter.
Yep.
I'm calling in, I'm calling in.
Why don't you take Marcia with
Now
you,
let's
then we
make
can
it
leave in half
official
an
here.
hour.
Who's going to motion here?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Aye.
That's the pot calling the kettle black. What are you talking about?
That's true, yeah.
Hey, where was?
I'm gonna go through our.
He had